Good, Tim?
Yes.
All right, so I've got 7 o'clock here. I'll call to order the October 7th, 2020 special board meeting, Anchor Bay Board of Education. We'll begin as we usually do by Pledge of Allegiance. So those of you that are interested in joining me, please stand and face a flag that may be in your home.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Secretary, can I ask you to take the roll for attendance, sir?
Okay, Ms. Burkmeyer. Mr. Moses.
Here.
Mr. Green.
Here.
Ms. DeWitt.
Here.
Activity Hemshot.
Here.
LaRue.
Here.
Mr. Middlestat. Here.
Great, we've got a quorum. Let's move on to the open forum following our agenda. Before we do get started, I do want to remind anyone who does wish to speak that at the beginning of, after you've been called on, you need to clearly state your name and address for the record. That goes into our meeting minutes. And we've kind of been negating to get that done over the past couple of meetings, and that's my fault. So that takes us to, where are we at, sir? Who's up?
Michelle Koch.
Michelle Koch.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can't get your name and address for the record. That would be great.
My name is Michelle Koch. My address is 29106 Bay Point Drive.
Yes, go ahead, Michelle.
I would like to first of all thank Mr. Moses for joining the Teachers Union Zoom meeting to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly right from the teachers' mouths. I appreciate him taking time out of his busy schedule and listening to our concerns directly and not through a third party. My second concern is as both a parent and a teacher in the district, my son is in virtual learning, and this week has been so messed up. He hasn't been able to get into the majority of his classes. No information was posted because some of the teachers were choosing to do a video at the end of the day. Others were doing live stream. So there was no cohesion that way, and there was no communication with the virtual students or their parents. I mean, I knew a little bit more only because I teach in the district. And thirdly is my concern for myself and any of the other teachers that have been put out on FMLA just because it's just physically not safe for us to be in the buildings right now with our health concerns as to what's going to happen with that. And I know that today was count day, and I'm wondering how messed up that was, because you had kids that are in virtual classes that aren't being counted, or those that are virtual and showing up face-to-face, or that are face-to-face and showing up virtually. So I have quite a few concerns and looking for some answers. Thank you.
Well, I'm not sure if I'll be able to give you a ton of answers. Obviously, to answer some of your questions, the count day, I honestly haven't gotten an update from anybody who's doing the counting or when that might be available, so I really can't comment on that. And I certainly have heard some of your concerns with the virtual. At this point, we are in, obviously day 3 today of having students both virtual and in person. I was in the schools, and I know some of our fellow board members have been in the schools this week, talking to teachers, trying to figure out what we can do to make things a little bit smoother and a little bit easier for them. But I understand there has been some challenges. I know that I've heard for some teachers, there's some technology challenges that we're still working through. And I wish I had a better answer for you, Michelle, except to ask your patience as we work through this first week. I don't know if there's any other board member that's present that's heard anything different than what I just shared or want to jump on that. But as the information comes out about Count Day, I certainly have no issue with sharing that as well.
And then with me being out on FMLA because of the district, not because of necessarily my choice, when my students are reaching out to me on Schoology, am I supposed to be answering them because they have a sub?
So my initial response is no, but I would probably need to turn that over to the assistant superintendent or the superintendent for a more formal answer.
Yeah,
Let me pass the microphone over to Mr.
Yeah, I'm
One
sorry.
sec, please.
That was me. It- Yeah, I'll have to get a hold of the building principal, because if there's a sub in the position, that's who the students work with. So I met with the elementary principals today, and we talked about technology and the other concerns. Overall, they shared with me it went very well, so I'm not too sure, where the areas are we need to improve, but we'll definitely get on it and improve those areas, and I'll get with the building principal. But if you're out right now, and you have a sub in that position, I'm assuming the sub is the teacher of record at that time.
Okay, Michelle, well, thanks for reaching out to us. And as the superintendent mentioned, he'll get with the building administrator and we'll try to get that straightened out. Tim?
I have no idea how to pronounce his name. Last name is Y-E-A-K.
Y-E-A-K. Did you unmute somebody that matches that description?
Yep, I did.
Is there a first name?
Kayla Joy Yake.
There you go.
Yeah, 32872 Birchwood Drive, Chesterfield, 48047.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, my concern and or question about the trifold plexi plastic glass things the kids have on their desks in the school, in the classrooms. If they have those 3-walled things on their desks and around them, why are they still wearing masks?
Masks are required. The masks are required. That's a health department and the school board policy.
I understand, through the health department, school board, mask required. So why are we adding additional walls in the classrooms, but there's not technically walls in the lunchrooms?
Yeah, they're not going down to the lunchroom to eat. They're eating in the classroom. The additional dividers was to do everything we could to make it safe for the teacher. There's 25 kids in the class, and make it safer, for the students.
Yes, my child's in middle school north, so they are going to a lunchroom.
Okay, I'm thinking you're in elementary. So the dividers were, as I said, the dividers were, they're there to do everything we can to make it safe for the teachers and for the students. The mask, that's the Michigan Department of Health requires those, and so does the board requires the mask. Your other question, have you spoke to your building principal?
No, I did not.
Well, I can have them follow up with you.
Yeah, I mean, that would be fine. I just didn't know if it was a district standard, I understand elementary, especially if they're staying in the classroom and eating. I get that. But for middle schoolers, it seems like it's contradicting itself is all. So yeah, that would be great if he could follow up with me, or I could send him an email as well.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anyone else, sir?
Nope.
All right, seeing no one else with their hand up, if you will, we'll continue on our agenda to item number 3 for general business is a letter of agreement, letter of understanding with the ABEA, Teachers Union here in Anchor Bay. Board members, you should have received as part of your packet a copy of a fully executed, make sure I got the title right here, LOU, letter of understanding. The letter of understanding was signed on Sunday. in an effort to get the students in class and to outline some of the expectations that we had with the ABEA and that they had with us. This agreement currently, bullet point number 25, states that this agreement expires this Friday, October 9th at 6 p.m. So the reason for pulling you guys all together with fairly short notice was to take a look at this agreement, figure out if we want to extend the agreement or if there's some terms that we're not comfortable with or something that we may want to change. So at this point, I'll open it up to the board members if you guys want to share some feedback on what you're seeing, whether we want to move forward with executing this agreement until the end of June, as bullet point number 8 states, I'm sorry, 28 states, or if we want to consider proposing something different in this LOU as we move forward for the rest of the year. Again, the reason that it was signed with just a short window on it is there are some terms in here that may contradict Mr. Middlestaff's motion from September 23rd, and I did not feel comfortable extending any past this week, just so we can get the students back in school, and then we could reconvene as a board and talk about our concerns. So, Mr. Middlestaff, it was your motion. Why don't we open with you, sir?
Right, so what I'd like to do is at least go through this process of how this agreement came about, and then maybe go line by line through the other agreements so we're all on the same page, because I think there's a lot of confusion of what's actually there. So at our last board meeting, we had a 7-0 vote to go live stream. And I guess these questions are for you, Mr. Green, is that somehow you got involved in the negotiations. Where did you get the authority to negotiate on behalf of the board?
So technically, I didn't actually negotiate any of the terms on behalf of the board.
No, I guess the question, you were in negotiations, correct?
I attended one session on September 21st of 2020 with ABEA, as well as our assistant superintendent, our director of facilities, and I believe Mr. McDonald was there and Ms. Gonzalez was there as well.
Okay, so you were involved in the negotiations?
I was physically present, yes.
No, just answer the question. Were you involved? Did you say anything or make any comments regarding what was being discussed?
I did.
Okay, thank you. Second question I have is, you made several phone calls Thursday, Friday, with various board members regarding this letter agreement. What board members did you contact that agreed with you that you should sign this agreement? You mentioned that you contacted board members to get some feedback.
I did. I attempted to contact all 6 of the other board members. I was able to make contact with Ms. DeWitt, Ms. Berkmeyer, Mr. Moses. I did leave, actually I couldn't leave Mr. DeRue a message. I did send him a text and an email. I sent you a voicemail. We actually connected briefly, but we played voice tag there. And then who am I missing? That's everybody? That's everybody. Oh, Ms. Hendershot unfortunately was attending to a family emergency and I was unable to connect with her.
So Ms. Berkmeyer, Mr. Moses, Ms. DeWitt, and yourself all agreed to have you sign it?
Yes, the discussion with the fellow board members was there was a concern that if we did not sign and move forward with this agreement with this short expiration date, that our students would not have been returning to school on Monday.
Why didn't we have a meeting last week to discuss this?
Because
you had no other parameters other than we would go virtual.
Unfortunately, this agreement did not come to fruition until, and superintendent or assistant superintendent, you can jump in. Thursday night, it still wasn't completed. Would have been Friday or Saturday. And unfortunately, we were unable to convene over the weekend, although it was attempted by the superintendent and his assistant to see if anybody was available to convene over the weekend.
No, my point is it didn't have to be completed. You didn't have any parameters other than what you had. So when things began to, when the teachers union or the teachers leadership decided they want to do different things early last week, you didn't reconvene the board to discuss the concerns regarding what the teachers leadership was asking, correct?
That's correct.
All right, so finally, on Sunday, you went and signed this document. What authority did you have as a board, single board president to sign a letter of agreement?
I entered into an agreement at the advice and after speaking to our attorney.
And what attorney was that, please?
Lisa Swem and I had multiple conversations. She did see and make some changes to this agreement before I entered into it. I spoke to our assistant superintendent multiple times on Sunday. He also was interacting with Ms. Swem
Okay.
to make sure that we were returning back to school on Monday. That was the goal.
So the attorney, Ms. Schwem, didn't have any issue with you signing the agreement on behalf of the board when the board was not only you hadn't got an agreement from the board in a board meeting, but the board had exactly opposite of what was put in the agreement.
When I spoke to Ms. Swem, she indicated at the time, I believe it was Sunday, that if this was a necessary agreement to get back into school on Monday, that I could sign it. And her recommendation was that this agreement would only last for a period of 4 or 5 days, and that we needed to reconvene the board prior to the end of this week. And that's why you're sitting here today.
So I would just note, and I'll get into the actual agreement, note for the record that multiple violations of board policy occurred and also violate not having the board meeting held to give you the authority to sign. You have no authority to sign anything as an individual board member.
So noted.
Regardless of where it was, you can't sign it.
So noted.
All right, thank you. So let me start going through the agreement line by line and see what you decided that you would sign. So the first 1 through 7 talks a lot about requirements for teachers if they got COVID, about sick leave. So there's lots of documentation here about at least a page of documentations regarding if they test positive, what we do, who reports what, if they're ill. It goes all the way down. And then we get to item 15. And I know we've got an attorney opinion that the live streaming is a prohibited negotiated item, yet it's put into this agreement. And it states a teacher may opt out of live streaming if pre-recorded instructional video of the same contents made into place. Exactly opposite of what the board directed us to do. A teacher that opts out of live streaming must have daily contact with virtual students utilizing any acceptable two-way communication options. The options are not limited to electric mail, telephone, instant messaging, face-to-face. It doesn't specify when and where and how. It just basically says there has to be some kind of communication. So it could be a message left through or an email. So there doesn't have to be any live contact with any virtual student in this agreement. Another item under that same item is acceptable forms of face-to-face interactions include engagement through a synchronous platform such as, but not limited to Skype, Zoom, Google Classroom, Schoology. So basically, a staff member can use whatever platform they wish to have. Generally, the district has been using Schoology or Zoom, but the agreement that you sign allows them to use whatever platform they wish to use. For live streaming instructions, teachers have autonomy to determine how to integrate the camera. So they can just define how the camera is going to be used in the classroom. A pre-recorded video uploaded per student is not required to be prepared by the teacher. Consistent with state standards, approved curriculum. Pre-recorded videos can be shared between teachers of common courses, which I understand, but the way this thing reads is the teacher, and I know most teachers wouldn't do this, but again, this is a letter of agreement that you sign, is that the teacher of record does not have to provide instruction to the student via video. They can take another teacher's video and play it throughout the year. I'm not saying that they would do that, but I'm just saying that that's the agreement you signed. Number 18 was a video or audio recordings of a teacher shall occur only with a staff member's knowledge, but I would assume that was common sense. Teacher recorded lessons on live streams used without the consent of the teacher. This one I don't understand because I know at my work, anything I do, if I'm getting paid to do a job, I don't own it, but you've included in this agreement that any online content should be considered the personal property of the teacher. It's not to be stored, used, or released without written consent of the teacher. I don't understand why it'd be personal property. The district will communicate to affected teachers the identities of those students whose parents do not want their child depicted on the camera. That's kind of common sense. The teacher is not responsible for what other parties do with the teacher's live stream. Instructional content consistent with state standards, and teachers exercise professional judgment to determine appropriate instructional strategy and classroom management practices. Because live streaming instruction may result in criticisms by persons not trained in instructional, I don't know what this is, pedagogy, and classroom management best practices. Administration will discuss concerns. Teachers will assist the district to sanitize the classroom and classroom contents if required to return the learn roadmap. So that definition doesn't, you need to define, doesn't define what assist means. So if a student fails to clean the desk, what does that mean? On September, again, you said you would admit that we approved a motion that basically is against what the heck was that you signed here, and that it would then would have a sunset clause at the end of the week, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I know based on one of our attorneys that all those conditions are not conditions, cannot be negotiated or prohibited. So I would, again, I don't understand how you went off and had this agreement developed and signed without board authority. And many of these items here are prohibited negotiated items. And just one of the concerns with the parents today is that when my student had videos in the beginning of the day or end of the day, like this and that, the administration needs to set the rules and guidelines on how we do these things. We can't just leave it up to each individual. We need to have autonomy for teachers in terms of how they do their instruction, but we need to have some kind of structure surrounding this. And this agreement not only doesn't offer any structure, but it throws any structure out whatsoever. The administration, according to the law, and it's prohibited, why these things are prohibited is for things like this, that we're supposed to be, administration and the board should set policies on how this should be done. We don't tell the teacher on how they do it. We just tell them how the process should be done. And throwing this agreement out there at the last minute, after the parents, again, the parents attended the board meeting, they leave a board meeting with an assumption of what's going to happen. And sure enough, come Monday or Tuesday, it's all gone away again. And then here we are again discussing it when it should have been taken care of early last week and had these things resolved. It's just ridiculous that you did these things in the last minute, and you were aware of it all last week that this was ongoing, that you let this go to this point, including all the violations, both board policy and state law. It's just ridiculous.
Thank you, sir. Let's move on to Ms. Hendershot for some comments and feedback.
A lot of it was covered by Mr. Middlestat. I went through and you did in fact know all of the details by the voicemail that you left me Friday morning during the burial of a parent. So it wasn't Saturday, it was Friday, that you clearly knew all of the details because it was left in the voicemail that was left for me. You did in fact blatantly violate the Opens Meeting Act by, finding the 4 votes without open discussion and signing that on Sunday, October 4th.
I never said I found 4 votes, ma'am. I said I spoke to 4 board
You said you
members.
had 4 agreements, it's on record and recorded, so.
Okay.
Yes, that was what was said in multiple messages.
The agreement you mentioned.
Mr. Middlestat, your turn to speak has passed. Please let Ms. Hendershot speak.
So irregardless if obviously you felt you had the support to sign the document. So common sense would tell those that the 4 individuals that you spoke to agreed in some way, shape, or form for you to move forward on Sunday the 4th to sign the document, which basically removed what we had promised our parents the week prior. And it is my understanding that if you had not signed it, is it not true that there was a caveat added to that there would be something not signed by the teachers in regards to agreeing on cleaning the desks? And if I'm not understanding correctly the communications between you and Mr. Woodside, that if we did not have that agreement in place on Monday morning, school could not open. Is that what you are, I'm looking for some clarification. Is that what you were talking about? Why it was so important to have this done on Sunday evening so that you could open school on Monday?
Yes, after conversations with our assistant superintendent, with the superintendent, there absolutely was a concern the school was not going to be open on Monday if we did not enter into this short-term agreement for this week.
So by removing the live streaming option, which parents felt very comfortable with, very apparently at multiple board meetings, then and only then were they interested in signing the agreement, correct?
There were 28 points on this, and they were all negotiated between our assistant superintendent and the ABEA. Some were quickly agreed upon when I did join them on the 21st. Others took absolutely till Sunday, this past Sunday, to iron out. And I'm sure that.
So that was one of the sticking points, was the sanitation part of it.
There were several sticking points throughout the 2-week process.
So what was the several sticking points? So one was cleaning the desk. Can you clearly outline for our community watching what the other sticking points were?
I certainly can, but quite honestly, to defer to Mr. Rathbun, who was in every negotiation for the 2-week period, would probably be a little bit more.
Well, Mr. Rathbun didn't sign the agreement. You did, sir.
That's correct.
So could you tell me what the other sticking points were?
I can run through each of them if you'd like, ma'am.
Please, because like I said, unfortunately, I was bearing a parent when this occurred. So
Correct. The cleaning was certainly an issue with the ABEA. The use of the technology that we were led to believe that we had in the classrooms was an issue. We thought we would have the ability to live stream and capture a teacher. It turns out that unfortunately the technology that we had wasn't capable of doing that. So not only was there a technology challenge, a small technology challenge, but yes, the second piece is that the teachers do not had a challenge with being recorded live, or live streaming is the term, live streaming.
okay.
Those
So
were
there wasn't.
issues.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
There were some other issues throughout the negotiations about using sick time, using FMLA time, using personal.
Okay.
And again, those came out early in the beginning. There was an issue of disclosure of contact tracing that
Okay.
came out early in the beginning as well. As I mentioned, each one of these points was somewhat contentious between Mr. Rathbun and the ABEA.
Okay. So out of curiosity, since this was only going to be a week long, was there any discussion at any time about coming to a compromise in regards to, hey, we've been using these Zooms. Let's open a Zoom up and leave it so that at least a student can hear what's going on, listen to the lesson. We were instructing the teachers for their own personal safety to stay towards the front of the classroom and not, normally as a teacher, even myself, I'm a linger throughout the classroom and check on students. And that right now, given what's going on with COVID, is not necessarily the best method to probably be using if you're worried about your health and being, around 25 to, 30 kids, depending on the class size. So was there any discussion about, hey, how about we try something for a week and see how it works? And we'll come back in a week. And if this is not working and we get feedback from parents, because I have had feedback from parents, and I can give you feedback from a parent myself who has 2 virtual children. And I have not been pleased myself with the way either the elementary or the secondary has been going. And I've been very vocal about that. But, we're in a pandemic. I 100%, I'm in a same position that the teachers are in, 100% with all my heart feel their pain, and I can't fix this for everybody. As we've said down the road, if we go to the left, we're going to upset somebody, go to the right, you're going to upset somebody. So, we're trying to find what I guess everybody in the board can probably agree to is some common ground, and trying to work together and compromise But yet, why couldn't we say, let's try what we had agreed to for a short period of time? And if that's not working, let's come back as a group and then reevaluate that. But instead, we did not inform one parent in this district that their child was not getting what we had agreed to at the last open board meeting. We just moved forward with a totally different plan. And I understand that it was only for a week, but we are only stewards of our words. And if our words change consistently, how can the public trust us? So I wholeheartedly disagree with the way that this was handled. I understand the issues. And yes, we do need to address the issues in regards to the cleaning and the technology. You know, I understand that we don't have cameras that rotate 360 degrees, but something is better than nothing in an environment in which is unlikely perfect for anybody. We can't make it perfect for our virtual students, and we can't make it perfect for our students that are face-to-face, but we have to find some commonality and some common road and stop flip-flopping back and forth and for lack of a better word, making backroom deals before it's decided in an open forum what those decisions are going to be. Coming to the board today to make something legitimate that was made on the 4th outside of a public discussion, I feel is unfair to the public. And I'm not arguing about the bits and points within the agreement, Mr. Green. I'm very disheartened about the way it was approached. Does that make sense?
It certainly does.
And I'm sure a lot of our families are like, whoa, what do you mean? I had people reach out to me and say, where's the live content? Where's the Zoom? Where's the this? Where's the that? Rather it be for, you know, the people are having issues with, you know, today Schoology didn't work across the county. So we had kids lose half of a day of instruction today because of technology issues outside of any district's control. But yet, you know, there are moments when honestly, I don't even know what to tell my own daughter what to do next. And we need to do better than that. And so, you know, irregardless of this agreement, I get it. I agree with some of the points. I understand it, but we can't continue to operate in a fashion that we are completely inconsistent. So in that regard, I don't think, I mean, I know it's not ideal, but you know, I only was asked one time, are you available on Saturday? Nobody asked about Sunday. There was not an email about Sunday. You know, we could have tried, and you know what? And if you couldn't get all 7 of us, if you could have gotten 4 of us, that would have been good enough. So I just think this needs to be done. Always, we are people who are charged by our constituents to work in their best interest and our students' best interest and our teachers' best interest. And to be able to do that needs to be in an open discussion with open forum and open discussions from parents, from teachers. And I'd like to start getting some input from the teachers during the original open forum and not after a decision has been made and then we find out a week later that they're not happy with it. I like to get that information up front. If there's a way, Mr. Green, that you can bring them into the fold prior to those decisions being made so that there can be more continuity and clarity instead of things seeming to, you know, we get bits and pieces and it begins to unravel. If you understand what I'm asking for is to somehow get everybody on the same page prior to a board motion being made, because in a week later, everybody kind of has egg on their face. And that doesn't make us look like we're working well together. And I know every single one of those board members sitting up there wants what's best for our teachers and our students and our administration. But it doesn't seem to be portraying that way to the public. Those are my thoughts.
So certainly thank you for the comments, and obviously I can take a look at what options we have to possibly move union communications up a little higher on the board. Certainly any of our teachers are welcome to speak during the open forum, and they have spoke at length during the open forum. So usually our open forum is right at the beginning of the meeting, and I've taken note, and I appreciate your comments. Ms. DeWitt.
Yes. Well, yeah, I did speak to Mr. Green on Thursday night. At that time, the agreement that I viewed had 15 different sections to it, or content areas that needed to be addressed. The present one that was a result of what happened on Sunday has 28. And I do, I guess, my concern is that all of a sudden, we weren't addressing several things that definitely needed to be, or were definitely going to be in the way of our having a smooth transition back to school for our kids, all right, and for teachers. But those particular options now are buried in 28 other things, which I do not know that they should have been part of this agreement to begin with. A lot of them, as Mr. Metalstat stated, has some long-range ramifications that really do not coincide with our policies and other professional responsibilities that the teachers have as a result of their positions in the district. So I guess I do understand that we needed to have action to settle several main points that needed to be at least agreed on till we could come up with another way to go. And that was the signing or the cleaning of the desks and the fact that we do not have cameras. We knew that they were webcams. They do not rotate around the room, but they can be positioned at the computers. And that's what many districts that are doing or thinking of doing even in the hybrid systems and so on. All right, so is it the ideal? No, it is not. But the issue is I took it to come from the teachers was live streaming period, that this was not something that had not been agreed to. So that would have been the two major things that to get us up and running, we should have dealt with. And I believe that our entire return to school plan is going to have to be somewhat of a draft because there are things that are going to arise that are going to perhaps have to be readdressed. Solutions come up to with so that perhaps to make it safer for our kids. I think that the communication to parents is very critical. The district wanted to get the kids back in school as quickly as possible. So we technically had a week and a half to get all of this in motion. Unfortunately, we now have a letter of agreement with 28 different issues on it that were not reviewed by the board. So I guess my opinion would be that you perhaps extend the agreement for a short time as it is written, and then we follow different procedures to make sure that all the board members can get feedback, the teachers, if there's additional feedback that has to go in it, that maybe some of these things that are still an area of concern could be addressed without saying this is, you have these 28 things in this agreement and it's going to have to go on until June. So that's where my concern lies now.
Okay, thank you, Marie. Mr. Drew.
I guess I'll echo them in a way of the way it was handled. I mean, I don't know, you're in a tough spot. I get it, Mr. President. But I was fully expecting we were meeting October 2nd. I thought that was already done and set that we were going to be meeting. I expected a board packet that Tuesday or Wednesday. When I didn't get one, I got to, like a lot of us up here have a demanding job. I ended up booking other meetings. You did call me Thursday night at 8 o'clock. I apologize, I couldn't answer. But then I got your email, which was asking me as a seconder of the motion if I agreed with the points in the letter of agreement. And I too, with the demeanor of this board and with the stuff that's going on, that's outside the lines of the Open Meetings Act. That's exactly flies in the face of when I was running for office. Parents, the concerns that we don't discuss things in public and things get discussed privately, and then it's a rubber stamp vote when you get to here. So I would have hoped that we would have met, if you knew about this, from my understanding, you knew about this going on for the past 3 weeks. You knew they were negotiating this. Then you got involved and you sat at the table, which I did too during negotiations, but I got board approval to do that as the board president. I love your work ethic, but I just think it was done in an unprofessional manner, and it put us in some areas that could get us in trouble. As it pertains, I don't think there's anybody that thought coming out of the last meeting that the teacher union leadership was okay with what we passed. But that's what we told the parents we were going to do. And we're in the business of educating children here and kids and students. That's our number one priority. We got to look out for our teachers as well, but we got to keep them as safe as we possibly can, but give the best education to the students. And I think our virtual parents are going to, some of them said it in the open forum for 2 meetings in a row, that they felt their students are going to get overlooked. And they're going to be put on the back burner, because right now, prior to us going back to school, they were getting live instruction daily. Now you're allowing, I'm not saying that the teachers are going to do this. This isn't a slam against any teacher out there. You guys are doing a great job, phenomenal. But to put this in there, the number 15, the opt-out provision, without some sort of guideline of a minimum requirement, something. I get what you're saying, Mr. Witt, but I can't approve this as written without some sort of, the kids are going to get the virtual kids are going to get some sort of live instruction every day. I don't know how long that is, but if we would have met that Friday, you could have got these recommendations from us. And I get it, you tried calling everybody and stuff, but that's not the way to do business. You know that. You ran on it. So I just think that.
Mr. Drew, I wasn't saying that we should accept it as is. I just want to clarify that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's an in-between till it can be corrected, that it should be extended for a short period of time until we can clarify the issues which are a concern. That's what I said.
Okay, I would recommend and we're gonna, I'm sure there's gonna be much more discussion on this, but I'd recommend that at least on number 15, again, I understand the teachers, I got more than enough emails from teachers, more than enough comments from other teachers that I know that the live streaming, they're not big on, I get it. But I think they also understand the importance of making that connection with students every day. And however we do that, shorten the day a little bit, whatever that is, we have to do it, because my understanding is we started off with 700 kids virtual, Mr. Woodside?
Yep.
And we're gaining by the day?
Yeah, I think Monday, as of today, we have about 65 additional students going into virtual.
So I think as this thing goes on, you might end up with more kids online. But my main concern is worried about the kids that are online getting forgotten about, and by no fault of the teachers. They got a lot going on. They're teaching the school, they're trying to teach the online. Nobody knows it better than the teachers, and like I think it was Ms. Akavetti said, is what about, I don't know if we could do it, or, come up with something tonight, but a working meeting with some teachers, with the teacher union president, with a few of the members, and sit around and talk about something that's really gonna work, but we're all involved. You're asking us to come in here or to talk to you over the phone, 8 o'clock on a Thursday night, trying to understand this and figure it out. You were in the room. So I gotta, think, I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying that, we need to put whatever energy, whatever time it's necessary to make sure that we're doing the best for the students while also protecting the teachers. So I guess that's it.
Mr. Moses?
Yes, there's a lot of things going on. It's a pandemic. There's everybody talks about being fluid, but nobody wants to move. And as a guy who's had many conversations with many teachers that are trying to make this work and are vehemently telling you every single time that is not going to work. And actually, I sat through a live demonstration at the high school with a live streaming camera, and it wasn't great there either. All right. These teachers want to do the best that they can for everybody virtually and in person. They're telling you they can't. Hundreds of them are telling you they can't. Now, they told you to the point where they won't sign an agreement that could have possibly stopped school opening up on Monday, that they are not willing to do this because they're not willing to shaft the students. Now, I think Ms. DeWitt proved our point, right? She said she was talked to about a agreement that had 15 things on it on, what was it, Friday?
Thursday
Thursday?
night.
Sunday, there was 28. So obviously, nothing was set in stone until Sunday that anybody was gonna pass for us to open up on Monday. Now, the only other option was to go virtual the next week. And I don't know about you, but I'm not too comfortable sitting up here. You think it was bad with the parents being lied to about wanting to start school on the 5th? And had they been shut down to 100% virtual on the 5th, that would have been better?
What are you talking about, lied to?
Yes,
What
I
do
have a problem with that too.
that there was no lie there, Mike, and to make this all about that.
John, you can spin it any way you want. This is my time. Yes, there was.
You asked me a question and looked at me, and you don't want me to answer you?
No.
Fine.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
That's a good way to do business.
It is.
Yep.
Now, what I'm saying
Make accusations.
Is-
Don't let someone talk about it. I'll come back to you, John.
What I'm saying is, it is. Would you like to repeat that?
Go ahead.
Would you like to repeat your comment? So everybody can hear you.
Go ahead.
You know, you love to run your mouth.
All right, guys, move on.
I'm just saying, if we believe our teachers are the best and they're telling us this can't be done and we needed to move it, and they were so vehemently about it that they would not sign this agreement, that these things had to be had, it was done on Sunday, is when everything was worked out. I don't see that he had any other choice.
Ms. Burkmeyer?
I agree with Mr. Moses in that sense. I don't think the situation was ideal. I don't think anybody believes any of this is ideal. 2 weeks ago, we sat here and voted on a motion. And what we were told was, there's no trouble with the technology. We were told that essentially it could be imposed because technology is not a bargaining point. And Mr. Woodside stated that we could have this done by October 5th. All sounded good. So we all went along with that. Mr. Woodside, on Friday afternoon, were we ready to open on Monday?
On Friday, we didn't have an agreement.
Correct. We did not have an agreement. Thus, we would not have been able to open. So I realize that none of this is ideal for the virtual students either. I don't like it either. I don't like it at all. It's for a week. And at the end of the day, it was until this meeting, which is really not even a week. And the teachers, I believe, are voting tomorrow on this contract, or this letter. So I guess we'll find out. But it was up to 5 days. An attorney said it was okay. Mr. Woodside was not involved in this situation all weekend. Some of his subordinates were. We would not have opened. So if we want to have a temper tantrum over how this played out, because it's not ideal for some virtual students for a few days, and I totally agree with that. It wouldn't have been ideal for an entire district come Monday that we would have sent out a last minute email saying, oh, by the way, we're not going to school on Monday. Because as of Friday, Saturday, Sunday, when all of this was apparently playing out, there was no email that said, hey, by the way, school might be delayed. So if we want to say that people are feeling let down or confused, think of how people would be let down or confused when school didn't start on Monday because of lack of planning and lack of leadership yet again. So, bottom line is 2 weeks ago, we sat here and gave the superintendent an opportunity to choose the date that he could have school ready to start with. And as of the Friday, that was the last business day prior to school starting, we had nothing. Now, I understand the points that Mr. Middlestat made. Sounds like, maybe some things, maybe there's some violations, maybe, like I said, it's not ideal. But I do know that Ms. Petron, Mr. Rathbun, Mr. Green, possibly some others, worked their tails off this weekend to make it so that this district could go to school on Monday. And if you guys want to dump all over that, so be it. But I think that you're throwing away the benefit to the vast majority to drive some points at Mr. Green because you don't like him or whatever it is. And I think you're misguided. So that said, I don't think that this letter of agreement is ideal by any means. I would like to see some changes. I think that's why we're here. So we're here now, and let's get this done instead of squabbling. And I think we need to just get this over with and move forward and stop. Like I said, Mr. Giroux, Mr. Miller, you're all right. We've made promises that have not been kept. We've made these promises based on guidance from our administrator here that has not been accurate and not come to fruition. So our teachers are telling us in the trenches, this is too hard, we can't do this. They're crying, they call me crying, probably some of you. We are having a major problem. Something probably has to give. Maybe you don't want it to, I don't want it to, but realistically, there's only so many hours in a day as well. So I want to say that, we could go through with live streaming because that would be ideal to me, but I don't think we're equipped for it. I don't think we're trained for it. I don't think our teachers have bought into it. And, maybe there's a learning curve. Obviously it's new for us. It's probably new for other districts. None of us have had to deal with it, and especially so quick. So, should we push a little? Probably. But we're literally at a point where we just don't have enough hours in the day to execute some of these things. And at the end of the day, none of you have come forward, as much as you want to criticize, none of you have come forward with an agreement with the teachers union that is actually going to work at this point. This bought us a few days to at least get here, get our kids in school. Let's start adjusting. If school's not ideal for these couple days, you know what? We're learning to have school. We're learning to go to school with masks. We're learning to one-way walk in the hallway. We're learning how the process is to eat lunch, how we're gonna get off a bus. We're learning and we're adjusting and we're getting ourselves back in the building and moving forward so that as this board makes the decisions that it's supposed to make or negotiates with the union, whoever's job that is, we get there. So I, for one, commend Mr. Green for the work that he did all weekend long. I got live updates from him, from Ms. Petron. I never got one from Mr. Woodside. Did you?
I never got one from Mr. Green or from any of them.
I think
Well,
That's good to hear.
Both of you also said that
That's
you
good to
were.
hear.
I
both
didn't
of
get
you
called from
also-
Mrs. Petron, and I didn't get invited to the meeting today like the honored Mr.
Good to
Moses
hear.
did, so.
Both of you also stated you were unavailable and don't answer.
Not
the
on
phone.
Saturday or Sunday.
So. I don't know what to tell you.
I don't
Make
know what
yourself
to tell you
closed off-
either.
When you make yourself closed off from the community and from communication, there's only so much people can do.
Whoa,
Oh,
like what,
Okay,
who are you speaking to when you say that?
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
That's majority.
The vast
Take
majority?
offense to that.
I take big offense when my number, my email was on the
Then don't,
website.
you don't have to take offense. if
So,
that's
but
what
you're
you-
sitting over there, you're saying to people that temper tantrums and squabbling as you throw daggers all over the place. It's your typical run of the mill. And you act like you're this big supporter of the teachers and that we're not. That's a typical thing. Mike, you say the teachers, yes, if you rewind it, I said we're not in discussion?
can we let her finish and then I will circle back to
She
you,
said
sir?
she was done.
Are you,
So-
are you done?
You talk about the teachers, we're all supportive of the teachers. All of us, 100%. I told you in my comments, I understand it's troublesome for them, Mike. But if we would have met, we knew it that night. The union president said it. She sent us all emails. It wasn't a surprise, and good for her. I said it in my comments, board comments, I said, she's fighting for her members, good for her. Our job is to make sure the kids get educated as well. So I said, if we need to shorten the day, what do we need to do to make sure the kids don't get left behind? You can go to all the meetings you want, you can go to all the classrooms you want, and so can I, so can Pat, so can anybody, and we can understand it's tough on them. And you can also talk to other teachers that said they can do it. You can go to other districts where they're doing it. And you make a plan that works for everybody. But you don't do it under cover of darkness.
So we would
I'm
all
not saying that he
understand-
has I'm not saying he has an easy job, and I'm not saying that he didn't put a lot of work into the weekend. Good job, Mr. President, for putting the time in. But we all should be doing that, and we all should be putting it together. Yes, we had to start school. Mr. Woodside, I'd like to know when Ms. Berkmeyer makes the comment of we weren't ready to open Monday, what was not ready to open Monday?
We had, well, I think first of all, this is it's a little different situation where, I've been a superintendent for 20 years. I'm proud of the district achievements. And I've never had a board member behave the way Mrs. Berkmeyer is doing. And the board president, I don't know where she would get the idea that all weekend I did not participate.
Do you want to have this discussion now?
Yeah, I do.
I,
Because you know what, the dilemma is when we talk one-on-one, you're okay with the challenges and you agree. And we know what the agreement is. And it was said at the end of the last board meeting that, we're not live streaming. You know that, isn't that what they said to us? Isn't that what the ADA told us?
yes, they expressed their concerns about live streaming.
Yeah, they're
as
not gonna
well as-
live streaming and we're not gonna get the tables cleaned.
as well as cleaned.
But in the same meeting, you sat there and told us this would be done and ready to go October 5th.
Lisa, don't use technology as a reason, because you're not correct or accurate at all, Lisa. You are, Lisa, who did you say was spineless? Did you ever, have you on Facebook, you know, who did you say was spineless?
All right, okay,
Is that
listen,
teachers?
listen, Superintendent
Or was
Woodside,
it me?
Ms. Burkmark, do we need a recess?
No, you need to let the
Mr.
superintendent
Green,
respond to
you-
her accusation.
Mr. Green, you allow.
Fair enough,
her to say
fair enough,
things
you're
you
you're
know is
right,
not
you're
true.
right, fair enough.
She's saying things that you know is not true, Pat. We were there Thursday night. We were there for what, 2 hours? We left that meeting with Pat. You were to reach out to all the board members to get them on the same page, to allow her to say, oh, Mr. Woodside didn't do anything over the weekend. I talked to Todd over the weekend, and we did everything we could, but let's not paint the picture anything different than the fact is the ABEA leadership said, no live streaming. It was said even at the last board meeting, they weren't going to agree to it.
Correct.
And they weren't going to clean the tables. That's what they said to us. So to say that, to say that, we were led to believe the technology, no, back on August 11th, when I brought to the board to do virtual, and face-to-face, the option, we talked about what the shortcomings would be. Mike, you visited a classroom, me and you. When we left that classroom, you said it looked great. But here, now you're saying it's not. But me and you talked, Mike, and you said that it looked great how that high school teacher was reaching out. Is this perfect? No, but the board is the one that said, hey, we'd like the virtual to be the same for the face-to-face kids. So we were at an impasse, and we met on Thursday, and Patrick updated the rest of the board.
How do we fix it?
I didn't want to cut him off.
The reason that I did not sign it, because I can't go against a board director, the board voted. I can't go against, prohibitive subjects either. I cannot do that. And I think all of you know that. I can't sign that form when it's a prohibited subject. I can't sign that form when the board members voted. So, and Pat was doing the best he could. I get that. That's what he was doing. He was doing the best he could under the circumstance. But that's really what it boils down to, to try to say the technology when, Pat, you were there. We weren't talking technology on Thursday. We were talking cleaning tables and we were talking how to live stream. And we were doing everything we could. But the bottom line is, if we're gonna live stream, then the tables wouldn't be cleaned, and in the secondary, we would have been difficult to start school. The only way we can clean the tables is through desks, is to help with, the teachers, overseeing it. We talked about all different kinds of things. Mike, we talked about, they'd spray the mist, the kids would come in and wipe the tables off. I mean, we did, and I say we, Pat, me, Todd, we did everything we could.
Okay, I guess it's my turn to speak, although I don't really know how to follow all that mess. Obviously, Mr. Middlestead, I hear you. Mr. Drew, I hear you with your concerns of me overstepping and possibly violating Open Meetings Act and board policy. I'll certainly answer for those charges if and when you feel like you want to levy those. As has been mentioned by several people, including the superintendent just now, the only way to get us back into school was for me to become far more heavily involved in this on Thursday. I was invited to a call. I did not host the call to jump in and try to help resolve the few remaining issues that were there. After that call is when I attempted to start reaching out to you guys individually, let you know that I had a problem, a large problem, need some guidance, and those that I was able to connect with, I did. Mr. Middlestead and I did play voice We actually spoke to each other briefly and then played voice tag a couple times. I believe it was Friday. So I'll take the lumps for that, but I got to be honest with each and every one of you that we need to figure out how to move forward with basically a motion, some type of change to this agreement, whatever the board's pleasure is. My intention was only to get us through this week. That was why I asked that it go for a week. And again, we can circle back and talk about possibly overstepping. Maybe I shouldn't have signed it. I needed to get my kids back in school. And to Mike's point, and a Hail Mary at 4 o'clock on a Sunday, these terms were worked out. I had talked to Mr. Rathbun probably a half dozen times over the weekend. We were up against the wall and we needed to come back. So I hear what you guys are saying, and I apologize for possibly not doing a better job. And that's a sincere apology. It's not a get out of jail free card. I'm not looking for that. But what I need to do now, though, with this board is steer it towards moving forward. How do we move forward?
So I'd like to make two motions. So the first motion I'll make, and during the discussion I can explain my strategy here, is I'd like to approve the letter of understanding, striking items 15 through 23, which starts with the live streaming and just before the sanitizing the classroom contents. So if you could somebody could second it, then I explain what my second part of the process will be.
You'd like to, I just want to make sure I understand before we do look at that second, you want to strike 15 through 23 of the current LOU.
Yes.
All right. Do I hear a second?
Second, because I want to hear it.
Motion by Middlestat, supported by Mr. Drew. Back to you, Mr. Middlestat.
So, my opinion is a lot of detail I don't agree with, plus our other attorney says those are prohibitive subjects of bargaining and all those items. So what I would suggest is we approve that. I would then do a motion saying that we'll do live streaming with an option of not however we want to word that.
Still have not done.
I'm not going to say it's pre-recorded instruction video, but the option of live streaming and or non-live streaming, and leave it up to the administration to work out the guidelines. Because I think that's not prohibited, that the administration can work with the teachers, but I don't think you can negotiate, quite honestly, Patrick, you can't negotiate those items, but what we can do is allow it to, as a board, we can allow it to happen and give the administration the opportunity to work out the details. Because the 82 minutes in the afternoon, is that when we want to have teachers contact their students live on Zoom? Having those issues where we have 5 minutes at least, opportunity to one-on-one contact. But I think we need to leave it up to, again, as the law states, those are prohibited items, but I believe that the administration could work with the teachers and come up with some general guidelines that are consistent, that the parents understand, so we can lay it out. Because right now, the way it's stated is that everybody's out doing what they think's their best job. And I agree with John, is that there's nothing against any of the teachers. They're all doing what they need to do. And it's very, I get the feedback. I get immediate feedback on what's going on, and it's not perfect, and there's challenges, but the issue I see with the way this is written up is a lot of detail there. There's no consistency on how much time, when you do it, blah, blah, blah. And I think a lot of the principals, we have a lot of practice because we all went virtual before. So we all kind of know Schoology, we all know on Zoom, we all kind of have some limitations of the technology and what we can do. I think the buildings, the administration working with the teachers, I don't need a letter of agreement with all those specifics. The administration was able to do, we were able to do all this virtual stuff before this. We switched over, and yeah, there were some bugs, but we for 3 or 4 weeks here, we were able to manage a virtual thing, and I didn't have any letter of agreement with 28 items to tell us how to run it. The administration worked with the teachers and worked out how we're going to do Schoology, how we're going to do Zoom, how much. At least my experience is I get a half-hour video, I got a half hour or more of live instruction during the day, and it worked out fine. But guess what? It was consistent. Each teacher kind of did it the same way, did it at the same time, and did it through the same method. What we have here in this letter of agreement today there's nothing there that defines that. And that definition doesn't need to be in a darn negotiated item. We did it without it before. The administration set out the guidelines, worked with the teachers and worked it out. And I know the building principals are helping to doing their best to direct the teachers on how to do this thing because they've kind of done it before. But you've got everybody off and then this last minute stuff, no parent knows. I mean, we kind of understood what was going to go on with this virtual. Nobody knows what the heck went on. I got a teacher, like the teacher indicated this in the beginning of the meeting. Well, is it beginning of the day or the end of the day? We should have guidelines around how that's going to be done and not leave it just out there to do it. So I would think if we could approve this thing, get all the protections. There's a lot of good stuff, and I know the detail. There's a lot of good stuff that was worked out concerning leave and how things are reported in the beginning of this thing. And then, of course, we needed that cleaning thing. But what we did is we dragged the important things that involve protecting people, their health, their leave, and everything else that's in this agreement, and the cleaning the desk. And we dragged all this live streaming, all this other crap in the agreement. And that didn't need to be there. But it was, because it was a leverage. The cleaning was leveraged against the live streaming. I mean, that's the bottom line, people. And it didn't need to be that way. You need to come back to us and say, you know what, we're getting some feedback. And I quite honestly, I thought the live streaming would be the least problem because at least the student got the same instruction. The teacher didn't have to go off and make these videos all the time. But we're getting some feedback otherwise. Maybe in 2 weeks, maybe in a month, the live streaming will become more of a natural thing. But I don't think that has to be in this letter of agreement. That's why I said strike all that stuff. Let's get all the protections out there. Let's get the clean the desk out there and allow the live streaming and non-live streaming, but get some rules and requirements around them. It's just too wide open. So if that got approved, I would then do another motion to allow non-live streaming, which would give the administration and the staff a chance to work it out. If they want to, and I would ask that the administration come back to the board and say, this is the stuff we worked out with the teachers. This is how we're going to do it. We're going to do Schoology, Zoom, 82 minutes, 60 minutes of that 82 minutes, because we gave extra 82 minutes of time. So we need to work that out. I don't need teachers, staff people working, till midnight trying to do videos and doing other things. Let's get some requirements around there and again, I can't say, yeah, I know we had 5,000 students that potentially on money, and let's face it, was a leverage on the cleaning versus the live streaming. Again, the kids were pawns in this whole thing because we were put under pressure saying, messages went out to staff, don't clean desks because I don't have an agreement. It had to do with cleaning desks. So we're going to close school down because nobody will clean desks and they don't like live streaming. It's crazy. Let's just get those items out of the letter of agreement and let's do a motion to do live streaming or non-live streaming and get the rules around that.
So let me make sure I understand. Your motion is to strike 15 through 23. And what do you want to do with 24 through 28? Obviously 24.
I have to have 24.
You're okay with 24?
Right.
Okay.
We have to, again, and if we could, let's try to define, get some common sense things around assisting the district that's sanitized. I mean,
Okay.
it's pretty nebulous, and I know every teacher out there wants to ensure the safety of students and ensure their personal safety. So I don't know if that covers it, but it's just too open in an agreement. But anyway, I think we need to do the cleaning. And then 25, that's
Null and void.
null and void. 26, there's just 27. And I guess if the board would like the agreement to do 6 months rather than a year, I don't know if there needs to be adjustments. I don't know, does it make a difference or not?
Yeah.
Okay, so
What about first marking period, first semester?
Well, we do it for the year, right? Just do it for the year. We don't have to come back here. And again, if there's a big enough issue that things aren't working out, we can reopen it, correct? As long as we negotiate.
Well, can we reopen it? We signed another LOU with the union. Can we reopen it?
As long as they agree, I guess I would think that both parties agree that they need to change something, they would come together, correct?
Can add something?
Yeah, we're gonna open up for comments. Let's,
Yeah, that was just,
Mr.
I just want to
Moses,
explain my problem.
Okay.
My thoughts.
Mr. Moses, you have something to say?
So we're kind of up against a deadline where they're gonna vote on this thing tomorrow, and if they don't, we're gonna be in the prospect of closing school Monday.
Right.
Again. I would propose, why don't we extend this for another week or two to allow them to settle something with the union that they're gonna agree upon, rather than taking the chance of closing it on Monday and being in the same situation of having to do a deal on Sunday.
I guess
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Moses.
I would think if we had both motions, we approve both motions, then I'm not speaking for the union leadership, but I would think I would satisfy both, all these protections and us cleaning the desks. And then I get the option to, I think everybody's worried that because we made the option live, no other option. I think if we make a motion, this is live or not live, I guess personally, I think that will relieve a lot of the pressure, and let's work out the details. That's my.
I agree with you working on the details. I would just rather have a signed agreement with, on something that's gonna pass rather than, we know they'll sign this, or at least we think they will, because it was at least agreed upon.
Right.
Right? And I'm saying, extend it for 2 more weeks the way it is, or at least 1 more week the way it is. They can go back, get something else that they'll agree upon in that 15 to 23 range, and then when we sit on this at the next Wednesday or whenever, then at least we're not, because what happens if we do this? They walk out there tomorrow and they say they won't sign it.
I can't predict, but
Exactly.
I would think the board has given some certainty, forceful certainty on what they expect to do. I think the parents will see it too, that I'm letting them do non-virtual. What else?
I agree with you. I just would rather be sure.
Mr. Moses, you also have to understand that, correct me, Mr. Middlestead, if I'm misspeaking on your behalf, but part of the worry here is I also have called our attorney this morning and was told the blatant opposite of what Mr. Green has said, that this is an absolute violation of the prohibited bargaining agreement, that these are prohibited items and should not be part of a letter of agreement. So I think what Mr. Middlestead is attempting to do is remove the prohibited language and leave it more general. And yes, we will have live streaming with an option of non-live streaming to be determined between the administration, who has the ability to do that, with the union directly, outside of a board motion that makes an agreement, signs an agreement that goes against the law that says you can't talk about these prohibited items. I think it's just attempting to make it cleaner than the way that it currently appears, that we are agreeing to give into language that is clearly, both me and Mr. Middlestead spoke to different attorneys, and both of them told us the same thing early this morning, is that they would not recommend that the board move forward in that particular realm.
But then I do understand that. I'm not saying I won't support that. I'm just saying, what if we strike the 15 through 23 and then only approve that for 2 weeks until they get an actual signed agreement?
Hey, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm willing to give people time to work it out.
I don't think they're gonna, if you just strike 15 through 23 and don't do anything else, they're not gonna agree to it. That's the
So
crux.
that's the sticking point.
Oh, and with that other
Yes,
motion,
yes,
okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yes.
No, I was hoping that's what you meant.
That's definitely what I meant. Thank you for clarifying.
John, you were the supporter, so I should have gone to you.
I just wanted to hear what he had to say. I don't know, you would know more, I think, to Mike's point. I think to go back to Ms. Berkmeyer and when the frustration on our side is, yes, we are we're past the 11th hour now, and it's to make changes and then make changes again. The parents already think we're wishy-washy as it is, so we need to come out with something strong. And the only reservations I have on approving it as it's written right now, and it sounds like Steve's getting to that, I hope, is I want some sort of thing that the kids, I don't know how to do, and that's where I would rely on Ms. Petron, whoever, to tell me how can we make sure that every student gets some sort of live instruction, or even just a live 10 minutes with with a teacher per day? I just think that that's necessary to make them know that they're still in school, they're still, for those virtual kids. I'm not saying anybody up here, that's all the stuff that was said earlier, nobody up here is looking to hurt kids, nobody's looking to hurt teachers. We just got a lot of opinions, but that's my main concern, is making sure that tonight, however we do that, and I think Mr. Woodside and Mr. Green might be the best to let us know what the teachers would agree to tomorrow night. How do we mandate, or that sounds such a harsh thing to say, but make sure that the teachers are going to face-to-face with their students each day?
I would put that in my second motion.
Mr. Woodside.
What Mike was asking, we would have to get them to agree to extend it another week, Mike. So that would be an issue, but what does non-live streaming mean? I guess we need more detail, because I feel you strike 15 through 23. You correct me if I'm wrong, Pat or Todd. I don't think we would get an agreement. I think
that's what I don't want to not get an agreement.
We're gonna, we're gonna run into difficulty. But what do we mean by non-live streaming? So, so they would not every day have to, whatever it is. I think we just need to say, what is that expectation?
You mean on the opt-out?
Well, the non-live streaming, Steve, what do we mean by, what's an example of, so they post a video each day, or what would, I think we need to talk about the non-live and what the expectation of the board would be.
My only example is what we have been doing the last 3 or 4 weeks. I mean, that's the only baseline I have is, but that was all day deal. So I don't know how you encompass that within a secondary schedule.
Well, you have students face-to-face and students virtual. So now it's different. Before, all the students were virtual.
Well, I understand that. I don't know
So now it's different. So, Pat, you jump in if I'm wrong. We need more, more detail from the board of what is it is acceptable for non-live streaming.
Well, I think, sir, to your point, we need a definition of what live streaming is. When does it take place? When does it happen? How long is it? And that's one of the challenges that we ran up against in dealing with the ABEA, is what the expectations of the board are.
As far as the live streaming?
When you say live stream, Mr. Drew, what do you mean?
I mean, I envisioned, again, but what I envisioned was a camera being in the back of I know we don't have the ones that follow them, but I envisioned a camera in the back of the room looking at the teacher during instruction time. The kids, I mean, this is what I thought, the kids at home and the kids in school are seeing the same lesson, and they can, like a Zoom call, I mean, quite possibly, I don't know if we have the technology there for them to interact during the actual class, but I would think we do. I mean, just like when we're a year, I know it's a class of 30 kids, maybe need to go into one of those classrooms this week and look at it, but, talking to some other teachers, they say it's possible. But, so I envisioned that. I envisioned one stationary camera, maybe 2, whatever, and then the kids at home are watching the same thing as the kids in the class. I get the hesitancy of the teachers. I understand it. I mean, nobody wants a camera on them all day long. But so if we're not going to do that, listen, I don't want to get in this big drawn out war with the teachers and stop school tomorrow morning or whatever, but how do we do it? Do you guys, is it?
I don't mean to interrupt you. That's your first question.
Yeah.
That's where we are.
Okay.
If we demand live streaming, cameras in the class, we're at a stalemate.
Well, do we have,
We're at a halt.
do we have the time in the day, or can we make time in the day? And we can approve it tonight to start maybe in a week. and finish this week as it is, or finish even the next 2 weeks, as you say. But put that in that motion tonight, but so we don't have these motions every other week and every other day, to Lisa's point, because we're going back and forth. But is there a way to make time where that teacher, at the end of the day, you know, if a secondary teacher has 3 classes of the same subject, she can tell all of them at 3:30, I'm gonna hold a Zoom for anybody that has any questions, any this, any that, on the subject that we talked about today.
All right, that's your, that would be an example for the non-live streaming.
Yeah, they opt out. That's all we want. I just want you to, I'm not asking you to do any special lesson plans, anything like that. Just please talk to that kid or give that kid the opportunity. They might not even take it, but.
All right, so
Can I make a suggestion or just throw something out there, since I am a teacher right now who is teaching live online?
Please.
Maybe we can give our teachers multiple options. Okay, we can say to those teachers that are comfortable with doing a pre-recorded lesson of their choosing for that subject, that is perfectly fine. I know I can open a Zoom and run it and have the camera on, whether I'm talking to the screen or the kids behind the screen. They are hearing the content, and Zoom automatically records and allows you to store it to the cloud for 60 days. And at the end of 20 minutes after I end my class, Zoom automatically emails to me that recorded lesson, in which I then email out to every student who was absent in my class by the end of that day and say to them, here's today's lesson. If you have any questions or concerns, here are my office hours. Please contact me during office hours to discuss the lesson. So they got the same thing. Granted, it's not the most eye-pleasing thing to see someone talking to a computer when everybody else is sitting behind the computer screen, but it delineates the same information to the class. It gives a virtual learner the opportunity to hear what was discussed in class. And then I have an office hour that allows a student to connect with me. The other option is just plain old live streaming with a webcam. May it be messy that the fact that it's only a fixed webcam, but can't we give the teachers the option that they would like to choose, and just make sure that that plan is loaded by the end of that day? And though those virtual learners have extended due dates, unlike the face-to-face students, because they're getting it live in the moment, where our virtual learners might have to wait to the end of the day for a video to be uploaded, and then allow the teacher to pick what video is their preference of their entire day to upload to their virtual learners.
I don't.
Isn't that what the letter says?
Yes, but I don't think we're going to be successful with
Giving teachers options?
I don't think that they're interested in recording a classroom lesson taking place live to be used later. Would that be?
Well, then they have the option to do a pre-recorded lesson.
So what are their, if they opt out, there will be no.
I mean, you can't leave a virtual student with no instruction. So basically, our children are teaching themselves their social studies, their science, their language arts. I mean, that's not fair to ask a student to do in the middle of a pandemic because of health crises in their own families. That they, believe me, the people who have chosen virtual haven't chosen virtual simply because they don't want their children in school.
So I understand what you're asking, Ms. Hendershot. I don't think, it's part of what's in there under number 15 anyway, is that they'll go with the pre-recorded. I know this was the item that Mr. Rathbun spoke back and forth with the union for 10 days over. So I guess I'll throw it over to Mr. Woodside. At this point, the feedback we've been given is that the teachers are not generally interested in recording a lesson in person. And their biggest concern is that they don't have enough time in the day to teach their face-to-face students, record a lesson, and still get done the other tasks that they have to get done in a day. Is that a fair statement, Mr. Woodside?
Agreed. Yep.
Mr. Rathbun's off camera, he's nodding yes. So while I agree that we thought that was a great solution, the feedback that we're getting, and again, if you guys are getting it from teachers, please share the feedback that I'm getting in emails and from personal visits is there's just not enough hours in the day, even with the 87 or 82 minutes that we've given to our secondary teachers at the end of the day.
So,
I think part of it has to do with tech issues too. I mean, let's face it, anytime you have technology, you have issues. I mean, my son missed the whole thing today because he couldn't get into Schoology and he missed the whole lesson. You know, I mean, it happens. Now this teacher's gotta back up and redo what they did the whole day because of a technology glitch, or they spend the whole classroom trying to fix a technology glitch instead of teaching.
yeah, I guess it just calls into more, and I get it, and I think, to Ms. Berkmeyer's point, I think it's already, 15's already written, it gives them a lot of different options to do. So, but if that online student isn't getting a pre-recorded video, which I understand the teachers, I can see what they're, the time of the day, there's just not enough time, but, so if they're not getting a pre-recorded video, they're just gonna be getting work sent to them. And I just don't like the, not having that face-to-face interaction at some point during that day. I don't know how we do it. It's horrible to say you want something, you don't want to do it, but I get it. It's, you know, call me whatever, but all I can think of is if we shorten the day, if we shorten each class by 10 minutes and you give that teacher an hour at the end of the day to catch up at least 10 minutes with each one of their sections. I mean, I don't know, these things had to be thought about.
Yeah.
We already reduced how many minutes at the secondary?
I think at the end of the day, it's 120 minutes.
Right, but per class, was it 5 or 9
Yeah,
or
they're down to 40, or some of them are down to 40 minutes.
from 53? We're 58.
Yeah.
So we've already chopped the schedule of our face-to-face is the concern.
Okay, so what
By
are they,
16 minutes per class period and added that to the end of the day.
so what are they doing at the end of the day?
So they're afforded, I think,
82
is
minutes.
it 87 minutes?
82.
82 minutes that they have to use at their leisure for the purposes of connecting with students, recording videos, catching up with their face-to-face. But they're saying that's not enough time. They can't get it done in that time.
They're saying,
And again, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Woodside, that's
The live, you know, just so we're all on the same page, is if you don't do live streaming, you know, I'll just read right from it. The teacher who opts for live streaming must have daily contact with virtual students utilizing the two-way communication option. Two-way could be, you know, electronic mail, telephone, instant messaging, it could be face-to-face. So the connection they could make could be instant messaging, emails, telephone calls, and face-to-face. That's how they would connect each day.
But Mr. Woodside, correct me if I'm not mistaken, as I received a memo from the Michigan Department of Education with today starting count day for the next 5 weeks, all virtual students must have meaningful two-way communication. And as a teacher, I was instructed to send an email saying, hey, how are you doing? Is not meaningful conversation. I must engage in curriculum talk with that student every day for the next 5 weeks, or minimum twice a week is the bare minimum in order for it to be considered meaningful communication under MDE's requirements for funding purposes. I mean, we're already down 300 students. We get audited at the end of the year and we cannot document meaningful two-way communication between today and November 4th, that you could potentially lose funding for a virtual student.
Well, we're not saying that it would just be that contact. No, it could be an email, you know, discussing what, what the assignment is for the day. They can email out that.
Right.
Follow up, and that's how they could make contact. They could do it by telephone. They could do it by instant messaging. Follow up to the kid, follow up with the students.
I just want to make one point. I think I got full faith in our teachers that they're going to do the best they can for the in-person kids and the virtual kids. So let me preface this with that. I just, as a passing something that we're going on record saying, and to make the parents at home, feel secure that their kid's gonna, and maybe I'm going too far saying every day, some kind of face-to-face, maybe it's, I don't know, twice a week. a Monday and a Friday, something that they're gonna be sure that their student is gonna be on some sort of technology face-to-face with their teacher.
Let me go to Ms. DeWitt. She's been largely quiet here in the last couple minutes. Did you have anything, Ms. DeWitt?
Well, I think what I'm hearing is that if we change this letter and don't address the area of the live streaming and clarify it, that teachers are not going to be cleaning desks, and they're not going to agree to this, to return to school unless these modifications are made. Is that what I'm hearing from Mr. Green and Mr. Woodside?
So I'll defer to Mr. Rathbun. He's been our lead negotiator on this team, our assistant superintendent. If you want to jump in, throw in some comments and answer Mr. DeWitt's question, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll start by addressing Ms. DeWitt's question. That's precisely correct, that essentially where we reached in our negotiation was that to get the teachers to clean, they wanted us to provide an option other than live streaming. And that was the impetus for putting number 15 into the agreement. Number 15, Ms. Hendershot brought up that there are potential issues of being able to count our virtual students. The language in there is taken directly from the two-way contact information that MDE put out. So we would certainly follow that in order to make sure that we can count the students, but that it also requires daily contact. So I want to be very clear. There's several different ways of contact, but if you're putting out a pre-recorded or a recorded video for the student to look at, the agreement as it stands today does require at least one daily contact with those students. And again, as Mr. Woodside said, that could be a text, it could be an email, it could be a face-to-face conversation through a Zoom platform or a similar platform. It could also be a telephone call. So any of those would be under the agreement, appropriate contacts with the student.
Okay, so a couple things. When we're talking about cleaning desks, I know in the district I'm working in right now, they lightly spray all the desks in the whole room and it dries. And it takes probably a minute to do the entire classroom. Is that the type of cleaning that we're talking about, or do they have to do each desk individually, make sure everything is wiped down, seats?
So we've supplied the teachers with essentially a hand sanitizing type agent. And we are asking if they would spray down the desks and the seats, I guess, between periods. And we estimated that would take roughly 3 to 4 minutes to get through the entire classroom at the most. And you're right, the product that we're using pretty much would be dry by the time that 3 to 4 minutes is up.
Okay, so
Marie, there is still a possibility there could be some wet, and we have paper towel in there.
right. No, that I know that happens if they overspray a desk or whatever, that there may be, and kids can be cautioned. If your desk is still wet, remember we have paper here that we can wipe it up and so on. Okay, so that has to be done for the safety of the teachers and the safety of kids. That has to be done. All right, daily. All right. The live streaming issue seems to be the main impasse. And that's why I suggested that we extend this deadline, or we agree to an agreement to, let's say, the end of the first semester, because I think at that time, perhaps we are saying that the teacher has autonomy at this time, but their responsibility under the law is that they have to make a meaningful contact at least twice a week, right? If they do not live stream, then it would be, in my opinion, it would have to be documented how they're meeting the letter of the law without live streaming in their classroom, where the lesson will be taught at the same time they're giving it to students, right? I mean, if they're saying, well, we can do it in other ways and we will do it, then I think that we should allow them to be able to demonstrate that they are doing it, but they do have to let us know how they are doing it. Who are they contacting twice a week? They should know the guidelines of the law. And I think that this entire thing should be worked on, but should only be extended till January. So we have time to actually think about all of the ramifications in some of these areas, that perhaps teachers can come up with other solutions, board administrators, other schools in the area, what are they doing to address these same issues? So that would be my recommendation, because we have to get kids back in school, but we have to sanitize desks. And that has to be, and I would think that the teachers would be more than willing to do that for their own safety as well as children, because they're here because they care about children. The other piece is we have legislation now that's telling us that you have to demonstrate, if you're going to get paid for a child or a student in the school, they have to demonstrate that you are making contact so many times a week. And so if the live streaming is not done, then we have to document it in other ways. But that could be the teacher's autonomy to make that decision, but would also have to be able to log that this is what was done. The live streaming takes care of itself. I would think that it would be far easier just to do the live streaming. The lesson is reaching the kids, and you have office hours, you have additional time and so on. But I see this, that there are too many factors here that have too many other ramifications, and to approve it till June, I would prefer, for the sake of teachers too, as things come up, and for the district as new laws come through and so on, that we only make this as an agreement till January, when we can see what other things that we need to do to make this better for our in face-to-face kids, better for our virtual kids, and better for our teachers, because that's ultimately what we're here for.
So Mr. Middlestad's motion is to strike 15 through 23 and direct administration to renegotiate. Ms. DeWitt, it doesn't sound like that's the angle you want to handle. I don't know what the board's pleasure is. There is a motion on the floor. Not quite sure what to do with it. If we want to vote, Ms. Burkmeyer, you haven't said anything since we started talking about it, or the motion was made. I don't think. Maybe you did, I don't know. Run it together. Do you have any additional comments you would like to make?
I really don't. I was just kind of taking in what everybody's opinion is here. I feel like maybe like some of you, I've been racking my brain over this since midsummer. I've spoken to Ms. Petron and gone round and round, different angles and things. You know, like I said, I don't feel like this is an optimal situation for our students in every angle. Obviously better for some than others maybe, and that is definitely not what I would want to put forth, you know, that we're choosing some over others or prioritizing anybody. At the same time, you know, I think we all realize we're in a pickle here. And I do think that we all have overwhelmingly realized that being in school in person is a priority as well. So we can't have it all, apparently. If I had, honestly, if I had anything different to add, I would have added it at this point. I don't. And that's why I have, you know, but that's why I was supportive of this letter. Not because I think it's absolutely the best of the best, because I think, you know, it's what we have. I guess I don't see how else to, personally, I don't see how else to move forward without, you know, going forward with what we already have. It's not that I wouldn't want things to be different, but I think everybody's put in a lot of time trying to sort this out. And, you know, like we said, I think we need to try and just make the best of something so that we can just get going and try and settle into how it's going to be. I don't like that, you know, we essentially, like some have said, we essentially sold virtual parents on something else that has not panned out. I don't like that either. And it's not because I don't care. I don't think anybody up here doesn't care. I just think it, you know, it's not how we were guided. So I don't know what else to do. I don't really have much else. I just,
May I ask one more question?
Yes, ma'am.
If for tonight we do not temporarily approve this, is it a possibility that the teachers will not agree to go back to school on Monday?
Well,
We strike 15 through 28 and
I
all
certainly
these other
think that
provisions.
I'm sorry to interrupt you again, Mr. Witt. If we get to union communications, we're pretty likely to hear from our union president, possibly vice president, where they can share their thoughts. So I know that at this point, we're guessing on what they may have to say. And again, the motion on the floor, Mr. Secretary, if I'm right, from an hour ago, extend this agreement, striking 15 through 23 and directing our negotiating team to go back to the table? Is that the?
So my motion was to strike those items, and I indicated that I'll then make a motion to allow live streaming and non-live streaming, and have the administration work out the definition and requirements. Basically, again, and I not only have an issue with how it is, but it's, in my mind, the attorney's opinion, it's a prohibitive thing, but what I am giving on is the motion I made before was all live, and I'm willing to say live and non-live in the hope that will pacify the major obstacles, and hopefully that they can work out those details.
may I ask you a question?
Yep.
So striking 15 to 23, are you, because it sounds like you, I mean, now you're saying live and non-live, so are you just simply doing that out of the belief that that shouldn't be in a letter of agreement because it's prohibited?
Yeah.
Is that, I'm just trying to understand
Yeah,
what the
that's
difference
part
would
one.
be.
The part two is some of the things I don't exactly agree with there, and some of John's concern doesn't mention that it has to be face-to-face time once, twice, 3 times a week. I guess I could include that in the second motion to say that if somebody isn't doing live stream, that they need to do at least 2 days of face-to-face, but they have the administration work out any details. It's a matter of, I'm not experienced, you guys, I don't think we're all experienced on the details, and I don't want to upset the cart in terms of causing a major issue of not approving the thing, but I guess I'm willing to change my mind on it based on feedback, the immediate feedback I get, and that, again, but I think it needs to be administrative definition of how that's going to work, so it's consistent across the district rather than leaving it up to each teacher knows how to do their job. They all have their input in. I tell you, they did a hell of a job for the first 4 weeks without us having to do any of this crap before. I don't think I need to have to define all these details in a letter of agreement, because I think people know what they need to do and how to do it. I just need a leader of the orchestra to make sure that they're consistent. If the middle school is doing the same thing, kind of at the high school, and then making those adjustments based on their situations and how they run their buildings. But again, that's my.
John, you were the
broken record saying the same thing.
seconder of the motion. We'll go back to you and try to get some comments before we move to a moment.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I seconded it because I wanted to hear what he was gonna say. I don't know, I mean, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I mean, on as far as whether it's legal or not to be in the LOU, I'm a little concerned that the attorney told you that it's legal and the attorney told a couple other board members it's not legal. So I got a big issue with that, but that's another day. But I don't want to muddy the waters too much in this thing and have this go south with, I mean, we go south with each other, but that's fine. But we don't need to go south with the ABA and get to where school's not going to open up on Monday. I guess I would ask the three of you who have been in the negotiations, and I'm probably a broken record, but if we put that just, and I'll see if Steve agrees with it, but the only change, keep everything, because our attorney told you, right? We have attorney coverage that she said that it could be in there.
When she redlined, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, she redlined the agreement, she highlighted it, she said it's not necessary to be in here, but she certainly didn't say it was illegal or inappropriate, or, and again, Mr. Edmund, speak up if I misinterpreted her.
That's correct. I mean, when there is prohibitive language in any sort of agreement, it's essentially that language is not enforceable.
Okay, So I get, again, and on the stuff of you doing what you did, I mean, you had to do it. So we're gonna get school started, and I commend you for giving up your weekend, but if it's okay to be in there, do you three think they'd be okay if we put just something, and if I guess the board's okay with it, that at least they're gonna see the kids face to face twice a week? We won't put a time limit. Maybe it's 5 minutes, maybe it's 10 minutes within that 83 minutes, because what, if they have 5 sections, right? And they have 83 minutes. I mean, I know.
I think, Mr. Drew, they have their regular prep period, correct?
Correct.
And then
And an additional 83.
At the end of the day, there's an additional 83 minutes as students are dismissed early in the secondary level right now.
So they technically have over 2 hours.
Well, you gave what, up to 4 hours a week? That was the end of the day addition, correct?
Well, it is.
Which I know sounds like a lot, and it's not. I'm not saying
no,
it,
it's
I'm not
not.
saying it's a lot, because they got a lot to do. But do you think it's reasonable? And maybe, I know it's unorthodox, maybe we ask Jamie, right, or shouldn't say her name, but would that be possible? Because I think that, I mean, I know that would make me feel more
Well,
comfortable.
maybe to clarify, I guess, I think I'm going along the same lines as you. Do either of you happen to know, I mean, because these bullets are kind of putting more restrictions on them. So did they want them, or did you want them? Or, you know, so I guess what I'm trying to say is, what made them want this spelled out to this degree, if you know?
Yeah, I think there's a couple ways I can answer that. When we started going down the path, we discussed that we knew that having daily contact with our students was something that was best for our students. So when they wanted to opt out of the live stream, we insisted that there be some sort of contact. It was talked about and discussed that with the contacts that are currently allowable in terms of counting attendance, counting membership, all of those things. Those are the contacts that are there. So that's why those contacts were included into the agreement. As for why was it so specific, I think the rationale is in any agreement, specificity is typically better than non-specific because, and I do think, Mr. Drew, your idea about clarifying exactly what the board wants in terms of those contacts is important for us, because I think we have to have that clarity in order to go back to the ADA and get some sort of agreement. I think without that clarity from the board, I think we'll be back here in whatever period of time you extend for, we'll be back here having the same conversation. So we do need clarity from the board on exactly what they're looking for in terms of those contacts.
So to Mr. Drew's point, go ahead, Mr. Witt.
Another, I hate to sometimes we have vacations, we have other things that come up or shortened weeks. I think that giving a minimum per month, so that way a teacher isn't saying, oh my gosh, I didn't make contact here, but next week I'm going to be bringing those kids in on Zoom or whatever 3 times. Okay, so making it a little broader might be more helpful for the teachers so that they're not tied into that twice a week minimum when there are other circumstances which might have prohibited them. You know, maybe the technology went down, there are a number of things. So I think that just to meet the letter of the new guidelines, making the teachers aware of what the responsibility is, might be easier to make it by the month.
Yeah, the administrators sitting here were indicating that they would like to see 2 contacts per week.
That's the pandemic learning.
And that's part of the pandemic learning piece that we agree to follow, continue to be funded. So I'd love to break it down to 8 a month, but I don't think we have that option. It's specifically spelled out.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Mr. Woodside?
Yeah, Marie had, I know what John mentioned and Steve, but Marie, you had said meaningful contact twice a week. So that's what we're looking at. What exactly is meaningful contact? What would meet that meaningful contact twice a week?
I think,
So obviously, I know, speaking to the union and getting their perspective, positive or negative. Next on our agenda item is actually union communications. Mr. Middlestat, would you be willing to table your motion till the end of this meeting and this discussion to the end of this meeting? I know it could go south quick, but I think the board members are looking to hear from some union folks, so.
Well.
I'll throw it to you if you're willing to do that,
No,
sir.
I understand, but it's, I don't really agree to be negotiating in an open board meeting on Zoom.
Well,
I'm willing to table it, but like I said, negotiating in open.
it's a slippery slope. I agree.
I think if you just, obviously Ms. Petron has been listening to all this and understands where we're at. And I believe she knows we all understand where they're at and what she's doing for her members, which is admirable. But I guess that would be a question I'd love to hear out of her is, yeah, what could we do to get some kind of face-to-face weekly, whatever it may be?
Mr. Middlestat, you make a motion to table your motion?
Sure.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, motion by Mr. Middlestat, seconded by Mr. Drew to table Mr. Middlestat's motion until probably after the union communications. Let's call the roll on this one, sir.
Okay, Ms. Burkmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Moses,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Ms. DeWitt,
Yes.
Deputy Hendershot. Moving on, Mr. Drew,
Yes.
Mr. Middlestat, yes. We'll wait for Ms. Hendershot.
Only question I have for you, do we need to make any procedural motions here so the motion doesn't get ruled out of order when it comes back up?
I don't think so.
Okay.
We motioned
Just
to
making
table
sure.
it, so I think we're okay.
Okay.
I don't know, I can make a motion to approve the amended agenda, but I think we're good. Ms. Hendershot, are you back with us? Well, we've got majority of the votes we want to wait for. I'm sure she'd like to hear what's going on. Is she still on with us, Tim?
I don't think so.
Wait.
Let's just give her a
Wait,
second.
okay.
Yeah, let's just give her a second.
She says she's having problems unmuting.
She's a host. She's a co-host. And I can ask her to unmute again.
Wait, you can hear?
She should be able to unmute.
Any luck, Ms. Hendershot? Technology.
She says I'm not a co-host. Okay, so.
She is like,
Oh, there she is.
says co-host.
Can you unmute her?
I tried. I sent the thing too. I sent a request as well. And I can do it again, but yeah.
Okay, so while she's working it out, she said she'd be okay if we just go forward and, because she can hear, she just can't comment, so I'll monitor text in case she does.
Okay, Ms. Hendershot, just let us know when you can jump back in. So the motion had enough votes, the motion's going to carry. We've moved the item down. We're going to go into union communications. If you could find Ms. Sheridan or Ms. Petron, whoever would like to speak first. I believe they both want to speak. Maybe start with Ms. Petron.
I can do either one.
Hello.
You are unmuted and we can hear you, Ms. Petron. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to be very brief. First of all, I just want to point out that we started working on this letter of agreement back in August. So this isn't something that was new. We asked Central to sit down with us in August to talk about things like COVID days and if teachers had to quarantine and all of these things. The recent events of the live stream have just happened over the last 2 weeks, but we have literally been working on this LOA since August. So I want to make that very clear. This is not something that is just popped up out of the blue. Second, I guess I'm confused and I would like some clarification on what is actually prohibited in this letter of agreement, because I've worked with Lisa Swem for a long time. Lisa Swem would not allow anything in any agreement that's prohibited. So if someone could tell me exactly what is prohibited in that LOA, I would appreciate that. I would like to thank Mr. Moses, who actually contacted us and wanted to come to one of our general membership meetings and talk to teachers and get input from teachers about why we felt this live stream, and I use that word loosely, because right now we're actually Zooming on this meeting and you guys had a bunch of technical issues, and this is what's actually happening in the classroom on a daily basis. I would like to thank Mr. McDonald, who took, I think, 4 hours last Wednesday, and Mr. Green, who listened to secondary teachers about our concerns. I know they've sent emails, they've talked. Mr. Mills said, I apologize, you don't have an email address on file, so you might not have gotten those communications. I keep hearing that you trust us, you love us, teachers, we can make it work, but I really don't think you trust us. Come into our rooms. Tomorrow, I'm going to be live streaming with my classes. All of you, come into my room. See what this live stream is like. We spend more time on technological difficulties of trying to get these kids in. We have kids in front of us. I want you to come in. Any teacher in Anchor Bay right now would say, come in our room and see what you're asking. If you trust us as professionals, then you trust us to make the best instructional choices for these students. And if I am telling you that some teachers would be, I'm personally right now, I'm pretty comfortable with the live stream in my classroom because the way my classroom is run, but other teachers are not. And if it's best for them to record a lesson and have daily contact with those students, I don't understand what the problem is. I don't know if all of you have actually read the agreement. It actually says in there that a teacher has a choice to live stream or to record a video. If I'm recording a video, I have to have daily contact with my student. It is in the LOA that's in front of you. So we're discussing this and I'm actually quite confused. I would like to, at this point, let Ms. Sheridan talk because she has some other things to say. But again, all of you are welcome into any of our classrooms at any time to see how this is going. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Petron. Tim, can you go over to Ms. Sheridan, please?
Can you hear me?
I can, Ms. Sheridan. Go ahead.
Okay, so Mr. Middlestat, you mentioned earlier that the teachers of Anchor Bay, did a great job the first few weeks of school, and I would agree with you. Being the situation that we were given in the middle of a pandemic, Anchor Bay teachers knocked it out of the park. We did the very best that we could with the technology and the time that we were given. A week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago, the decision was changed for us to return face-to-face and for secondary teachers to also be responsible for virtual teachers or virtual students at the same time. We have literally been screaming for months that that is a disservice to each and every student in this school district. We want to do what's best for them. We want to give them the Anchor Bay education that we are famous for giving, that gives us the top scores in Macomb County that we brag about every spring. We want to provide that for our students. Mr. McDonald and Mr. Green sat on a Zoom meeting last week with over 180 teachers for 4 hours, where we cried and we begged and we pleaded for help, for relief, for something about this to change. The meeting was opened up by Mr. McDonald saying, I'm going to keep this brief. I know you have a lot of stuff you want to get done today. And we did. We had about 37 hours of work that we had to get done in 6 hours. But we were so lost and so confused, we gave up 4 hours of our day to sit there and listen because we need help. We need direction. What we are being asked to do is not possible. It shortchanges our face-to-face students. It shortchanges our virtual students. And it is killing us as teachers because we know it is not what is best. And in Anchor Bay, our teachers are amazing. I work with amazing teachers every day, and we do the most awesome things for our students. Let us do that. Let us listen to us, trust us. Live streaming is not what's best every day, all the time. It is not. We will make connections with those kids. We thrive on those connections with our students. Please listen to us. It's one thing to show up to a meeting, which we appreciate, and listen. But then these decisions are made, which at times feel like you have no consideration for what we just said. It leaves us feeling very lost. You guys trust us. Every other situation of the year, you trust us. You listen to us. You trust us with your children. We have taught your children, trust us, that this is not what's best.
Thank you, Ms. Sheridan. Are there anybody else with Union Communications, Tim, that might be on there, as long as we're on Union Communications?
1 second.
Anybody else with their hand up, maybe?
Sarah Jackson.
Sarah, if Sarah's a teacher, we want to move her to the second open forum. Generally, I think the intention is here for union leadership to share what's going on in their individual unions. We can move everyone else to the second open forum.
Okay.
Nobody else? Mr. Drew, you wanted to hear from the two union people?
Well,
Yeah, I mean,
And I did too, but.
yeah, you know, and I guess we do trust, I understand what you said, and you said, trust us, and we are trusting you. I think everybody at this table has agreed that we're not gonna mandate live streaming. The question is, and I do trust that the teachers are gonna make meaningful contact, and I do believe you'll do the best you can for both the in-person students and the virtual students. But there are concerns out there by the virtual parents who have had it good, because you did knock it out of the park the first portion of this year by being online and being with the kids or with the students live. I would like to see, and I think the board, I know Ms. Berkmeyer said it, is we put something in here. And what I was looking for from them was not on this live streaming. Okay, we hear you loud and clear. We're not going to do that. And we agree with you. And I'm sorry it took since August. I didn't know about those negotiations. And if I missed an email, someone let me know. But how do we put in this current agreement that you guys, that the teachers will be okay with and can understand our point of view is it 2 or 1 a week where they're going to see face to face by Zoom, by Schoology, whatever. That's what I was looking for. And I don't, like I said, I know it's unorthodox. I'm not trying to negotiate an open forum, but they know it better than anybody. Is that possible? They got a prep time during the day, and then they got 83 minutes at the end of the day. Is it too much to put onto them at least 1 or 2, I would hope for 2, contacts a week where they're face to face with the students? It'll put peace of mind with our parents that are virtual parents, and peace of mind with the students. And then everybody's happy, and I trust you guys. You guys will do the best education for our students. And you're the professionals. You guys know it better than anybody. So that's what I was looking for. I don't know what anybody else got.
I think what you're maybe clarifying is that, we know that 2 contacts a week are required. But you want them to be 1 or at least 2 face-to-face somehow.
hang on one second, let me regain control of this. Before we continue this on the union negotiations, we're done with union negotiations. We need to circle back to Mr. Middlestaff's motion that was tabled. And now we shall continue our discussions about the LOA that, and the motion that Mr. Middlestaff had made. Ms. Burkmeyer.
So you're just clarifying that you would like that to be face-to-face, like through some sort of, not just maybe a text or an email,
Correct.
essentially.
I
And
know.
I understand that, and I appreciate that. I guess my concern on the flip side is, not that I don't want it, but what happens, you know, it's a two-way thing. So what happens when the student doesn't engage it? I mean, what are the repercussions? I mean, obviously funding is an issue if we're not complying, but if we put that limitation on ourselves to say it's gotta be face-to-face, I mean, are we, I guess that my concern is, you know, if you have a student who's just answering emails and just not showing up, how do we rectify that on the teachers' end? You know, we're holding them to something that isn't in their control.
Oh, isn't he absent?
I guess I would, so,
Go ahead, Ms. DeWitt, and then we'll jump back over to
Well,
Mr.
is he absent? Then if a child isn't coming in and checking in and so on?
Yeah, Ms. Burkmeyer's point is that they're not attending any type of Zoom, they're not watching Zooms, and they're not.
No, but do they have to take attendance daily?
I believe we're taking attendance even in the virtual.
Well, that's what I'm saying, that isn't that going to be the way that you would determine if a child is not doing that, then they're absent?
Does attendance count as a contact? Okay.
And I'm assuming we're filtering these up just like we do. if we
Right.
have someone who's
Not according to MDE. I was told as a teacher that being absent is not an excuse for not making contact.
Not the teacher being absent, the student.
No. I was told today by my employer, the MISD, that if I have a student absent, I have 7 students absent today, that I had to physically call home and talk to a parent and then connect with the student, because we are in the middle of the next 5 weeks of funding for remote students. It's different for face-to-face, but that was not given to me as an option. I could not write down just the word absent. No, I could not.
I guess I would,
Mr. Drew, go
yeah,
ahead.
just clarify something for Ms. Burkmeyer. I guess the way I was reading it was that they would be, that the students would be being contacted daily with what assignments they're gonna need by an email or, you know.
Right, and I think I agree with you too, that this was above and beyond just a
Yeah.
lesson.
Yeah, I don't
You're
want,
talking beyond attendance, beyond logging in, seeing that they logged in and watched their lesson, whether it's recorded or live, but you're talking like a reach out, like, how are you doing?
yes,
Are
and
you
only if,
engaging?
and if they set that time up and only 10 of the 20 kids or however many kids they're setting it up come into that, I guess I wouldn't put parameters on them as far as everybody needs to be there, just that they have it. Where if that kid is having trouble and that kid is struggling with the online learning or with something in that, like I know my kids at times do, and you know, sometimes 7th grade math is tough, but is what, you know, having that ability where at least twice a week, they know they can talk to that teacher face to face. I don't want to put punishments into the teachers, or punishments into the kids, just give them that opportunity.
It's in the LOU under 15, right, that they have to have two contact, which
Daily.
daily.
Yes. This would be above and beyond that.
Yeah, so I think what Mr. Drew is saying, if we invited, in the case you're talking about, if there was a Zoom meeting where the students were invited to attend and they did not attend, we would then be required to reach out in another way with an email or some other contact in order to try and make contact with that student. So in that particular case, you know, if what we're talking about is if the student does not attend the Zoom meeting, then during that week, you would have to make at least 2 contacts. So if the student is not attending the Zoom meeting that you set up, then potentially the next day you would have to reach out to them with a voice call, or you would potentially have to reach out to them with a email or some other form of contact. And all those contacts are being documented here so that we can count those contacts and be in compliance with the attendance, membership, and the pandemic learning requirements.
Yes. I guess I don't want to put undue strain on the teachers as far as trying to get that kid onto that call, but just allowing that kid that opportunity, if that makes sense. And I get there's already stuff in 15, like you said, that allows for context, but I don't think you can do all that. And I'm not saying the teachers would do this, but just to give peace of mind to the parents that they're definitely going to see them face to face, give them that at least perfect world for me would be twice a week.
Okay, so anybody else, any other comments on Mr. Middlestad's motion?
Well, I think if you could, to not muddy the waters, I know I seconded it, but if we could just.
So what I prefer is I'd like to withdraw that motion and make a different one.
Mr. Drew, you support that? Very good.
Yes.
Back to you, Mr. Middlestad.
So first thing I want to do is not mess with this. I just want to, we made a motion previously that required everything to be logged. So what I'm going to do first then is, it would be my motion, I'm trying to write it out. While the board would prefer to have virtual students have a live classroom experience, the board will allow non-live instruction, as I'm writing this, by instruction, as administered by the administration. I'm saying administered by administration, meaning that I want to make sure there's consistency and everything else. Then you can do the agreement.
All right, so your motion again, sir, Mr. Secretary?
All right.
Since you're recording your own motion.
Yes. While the board would prefer to have virtual students have a live classroom experience, the board will allow non-live instruction as administered by the administration.
Isn't that stated already?
Well, let me get a second
No,
here. Can I get a second? We'll have discussion.
Yep.
Anybody second the motion?
I'll second.
Okay. Seconded by Mr. Moses. Ms. DeWitt?
Isn't that already stated that they have that option?
I'm trying to make it, again, I'd like to make that motion independent of the joint operating agreement because that's basically what we did at the last meeting. So I'm just setting the board's direction so I have an opportunity to vote yes on something.
Okay.
Before I send around the horn, Mr. Rathbun, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I understand, Mr. Middlestead, your desire to leave that open-ended, but based on my last couple weeks of negotiations with the ABA, I think we do have to have clear direction from the board as to what that contact looks like.
I didn't say anything about contact.
No. My understanding of the motion is the board would prefer live streaming. However, the teachers have option B of pre-recorded or recording their lessons. Is that correct?
I said allow non-live instruction as administrator defined. Again, I could sit here and define it.
Correct. So your motion is direct, Mr. Rathbun, Mr. Woodside, to deal with the live streaming versus the not. That's the only thing that this motion is dealing with, correct?
And that's what I'm trying to point out, is that I think without direction from the board as to what the contact has to be, we will be back here in the same position next week.
I'm just leaving the opportunity because we haven't.
Yeah, we'll be back here next week because it expires Friday.
Well, my point is I'm not dealing with the joint operating agreement. I'm just making a statement based on what the board is allowing.
From the September 23rd original motion?
Right, I'm just basically saying this is the board's direction that will allow non-live stream, whatever non-live instruction, because that's what people want, right? That's what the staff wants, and I want consistency is what I want. So if you approve this motion, then you have the justification to approve this agreement, because you got to overrule the previous motion.
Anybody else with comments before we move to the
That's the way I
vote?
look at it.
I guess it's procedural. I just think we're muddying the waters with all these motions, but.
Ms. Hendershot or Ms. DeWitt, I can't see you with your hands up, so I throw it to you guys if you have anything.
Could I have Mr. Middlestat speak a little bit clearer? I'm getting a lot of feedback. I didn't hear everything in his motion.
Basically, overriding the previous motion I made 2 weeks ago by saying, while the board would prefer to have virtual students having a live classroom experience, the board would allow non-live instruction as administrated by the administration.
And can I ask why Mr. Giroux is uncomfortable with that?
I don't think it's necessary. I think if the minute we pass this LOA, however we pass it, that's gonna give the new direction from the board. And I think everybody knows that we would want live streaming, and I'm sure the teachers would want it if it was a seamless way of doing it, and they had all the time in the day. But I think it's, the wording just, I think it just convolutes everything, and it makes it messy where it's like,
Well, what wording would you like it to say?
I don't think we need the motion. I think we need to talk about the LOA, which was brought to us tonight. And I think we need to pass the LOA. I'll make a motion after this, that we pass the LOA, but my personal opinion is that we need to include what the context looked like to what Mr. Rathbun is saying. And within that would be the context daily of emails, this, the electronic, any of those means that's in number 15, but added to it, to face-to-face contacts a week with their students by Zoom, by whatever way, but where they give that opportunity for the students. And I think if we did that, that solves, and I would imagine that the teachers.
Or would you be open to prioritizing face-to-face contact?
I didn't hear what was said in the background.
Would you be open to maybe stating it like with the context I'm reading just in the LOA, that it says acceptable forms of face-to-face interactions include engagement through asynchronous platforms such as, but not limited to Skype, Zoom, Google Classroom, Schoology. Documentation in a face-to-face environment may consist of an attendance record maintained by the teacher. You could maybe try to amend the LOA, but I'm afraid with anything we try to amend the LOA with, we have to run it by.
Well, can't we, Miss Berkmeyer, couldn't we possibly just say that the teachers have to abide by the MDE ruling in regards to, we can't take that away from them. All teachers in the state of Michigan have to, so can it simply just be amended to say that all, everything that constitutes meaningful communication as defined by the Michigan Department of Education rules for remote learning?
Well, I'm okay with that, but I think what Mr. Giroux wants to stipulate that we have maybe a little bit more stringent contact opportunity for, like a face-to-face contact where, that we at least try to offer a face-to-face contact, maybe by asking the teacher union if they would amend it to say, where we prioritize face-to-face interaction. Of course, if that falls through, it obviously, you could resort to email or something else. I guess my concern with changing is though that we have to run that by, before we would have to come back to the table before we can even, we could approve it, but then you're right back in negotiating this LOA again.
Yeah, you would not be able to change the language of this LOA. If you do that, during the course of the agreement, it's null and void.
Right, so you're starting touching square one.
That's fine. So is everybody comfortable after two attorneys have told us specifically today, everybody is comfortable approving an agreement that was recommended that included prohibited language that is not enforceable? People are comfortable approving that type of.
Ms. Hendershot, the motion doesn't actually deal with approving the agreement.
Well, because like I said, I've had some very bad audio here, so I'm asking for some.
I'm sorry. Mr. Middlestad's motion actually doesn't deal with anything to do with the LOA, except for the very minor change that that the board prefers live streaming. However, we will accept non-live streaming at this point. That is the only motion on
The table right now. Thank you for the clarity.
Okay. All right, if no one else has a question, Mr. Woodside, can you slide that over to him, please?
So I think, I'm sorry, but I'm going back to, we need, Pat, how you would agree, I think we need more detail than what live streaming, what non-live streaming is. I know when King had talked, doing a recorded lesson and daily contact, we need more direction, otherwise we're gonna just be back, spinning our wheels. I think you agree that we're gonna be back spinning our wheels that we need to know what the board defines non-live. Is it okay in the agreement it has daily contact could be anything.
Area is length times width, so the two numbers times each other. You add the additional sides.
Janine, we can hear you.
Hey, well, some of us are trying to do virtual learning with our kids at the same time.
I appreciate that.
I,
I'm kind of at a loss. Do we want to move on this or not? There's a motion on the floor. So, there was a second. So our superintendent's telling us that they're not getting enough direction. There's a motion on the floor. We need to move on this motion before we can move on. So do we want to provide additional direction as the superintendent has requested? Or do we want to move on the motion as it is on the floor?
move on this motion, and we can talk about the LOA. What do you think? It's up to you.
It's not up to me. Nothing's up to me. Do we want to pull the union back? We can't do that. We can't keep going back and forth.
Not during an open
I can't
motion.
do it.
Well, we gotta know what the recorded lesson that every day, we're gonna.
I think we need to get to the point in this meeting where we're talking about the LOA and whether or not we're going to approve the LOA as it stands, or if we're going to try to make some sort of amendment that we believe the teachers would abide to, would agree to. So let's vote on this motion, and I call for the vote, whatever you want to call it.
So my comment would be is, you're telling me if I change this, it won't get approved.
Yes, what I'm saying is if you change the agreement as written right now during the period of this week, it would null and void the contract this week. Now, if we cut the contract the same for this week and made changes going forward, those would have to be negotiated.
This is in place till Friday,
Correct.
so we're not trying to change that.
I'm just trying to be
Yeah,
clear.
that's already signed. So I think.
No, but I'm just kind of confused, but you're asking me to, you basically got me cornered in the vote to say that if I do anything to change this document, then I risk not starting school on Monday.
No, I would disagree if I were
How
going
would
to
you-
offer an opinion,
Okay.
only because bullet point 25 says that it expires on October 9, 2020. During that time, the board has an opportunity to modify the September 23rd, 2020 motion requiring live stream instruction to virtual students and reaffirm this LOA. So it sounds to me like you're, at this point, making a motion to change the September 23, 2020 motion.
That's kind of what I was thinking, but.
So
But
I
was
believe we're
looking- but I was
covered by
looking-
bullet
But I was
25.
but I'm looking ahead, and say, even if I make that motion, even if we discuss this, I'm being told if I wanted to find something differently in here, I risk not. So it seems like we're being cornered about here on something that is meaningless, what we want to change on today. Personal comment. So anyway, you want to call, I'll call the roll if you wish. So,
Mr. Secretary, please.
okay, Ms. Burkmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Moses,
No.
okay, Mr. Green,
Yes.
Mr. DeWitt,
Yes.
Ms. Henshaw,
Yes.
Drew,
Yes.
okay.
Okay, motion carries. Still on the topic of the LOA, LOU, whatever we're calling it at this point.
Well, I'll see if this, Mr. President,
Sir,
like to, I guess, make a motion. I think this is the way we do it, to accept or to extend the letter of agreement for the rest of the school year with the following amendment that in number 25, we add one contact per week shall be face-to-face with the students. We won't put a time limit on it. We won't put anything, just one contact per week will be face-to-face.
I don't think you can guarantee a face-to-face.
I think you have to clarify that for meaningful contact, but you can't go one when the state of Michigan requires two for
No,
remote learners.
Minimally one is face.
Yeah.
Face to face, I can see you, you can see me.
Well, the number 25 already spells out that they need to have two contacts, the daily contact, it already spells out what they need to have.
So what
All
you want it to
the
be,
amendment would be saying is that,
15.
or 15, I'm sorry, not 25. 15,
okay,
is that one of those, many contacts per the MDE, per all the laws, per funding, per everything, at the teacher's discretion, will be face-to-face, and not face-to-face in the classroom, face-to-face virtually, to the virtual students.
So do I understand? One, are you making a motion, sir?
Yes.
And two, your motion is to extend the LOU for the remaining school year. I think we have, the remaining school year is June 30, 2021, correct? So that'd be the correct date. And you want to modify number 15.
All items staying the same except for number 15.
Everything stays the same except for number 15, where you'd like to add in one contact per week shall be, I know you use face-to-face, but
I should say,
yeah, I'm not sure what term we would put in there.
should say live, maybe,
Would be a live interaction?
live interaction.
Live interaction. Phone call.
Phone call, okay, all right.
So it should,
At least they're talking to their teacher. They have the ability to talk to their teacher if they're having trouble.
well, they have the ability to use the conferences link in Schoology as well, which allows them to view the student instantaneously. We do have that option installed, do we not, Anita?
because the joint operating agreement says acceptable forms of face-to-face interaction, include Zoom.
Yeah,
blah, blah,
it's already
blah.
spelled
So in that sentence, should say at least one face-to-face interaction shall occur with the acceptable forms being blah, 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 blah.
Perfect.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a good way of writing, it. But yeah, to where you're just
Wanting
one
all the platforms that are already in there.
that are already there, that they must have already been comfortable with because it's in.
Correct.
So I don't know, I didn't write down exactly. You tell me.
Yes.
Can you read it back to us, please?
Reread my motion.
The motion is to extend the LOU for the remaining school year. You want to edit number 15 and add, Mr. Rathbun, if you turn on your microphone there, you can tell us what he exactly just said.
Modifying the next to last sentence.
Yeah.
At least one face-to-face contact per week, including acceptable forms of face-to-face interactions, including engagements through synchronous platforms such as, but not limited to Skype, Zoom, Google Classroom, Schoology.
Perfect.
But I think it should say as mandated by the new state guidelines.
Well, we already,
That's why we're doing
That's
it.
already there.
already had
Yeah.
daily contact.
We're already there on that.
Daily contacts.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got a motion. Do we get a second? They're all in together. Do I have a second on Mr. Drew's motion?
No, I think we were still trying to make.
Okay.
I did a good
Is
job.
everybody,
writing
is
it.
everybody clear on Mr. Drew's motion? I need a second, please.
Is there, any way you get the opinion of the ramifications of the change before we make the second motion?
Yeah, I think I don't mind the motion. My concern is back to what Mr. Rathman said, that if we make any sort of change to the document, it won't go through, and then we're still back here. So I guess,
Because my take would be is that very small.
It's a small give on that whole thing of what they're getting.
I would think so. I just can't speak for others.
And I think the obvious thing is, that I think we all would believe that every people go anyway, and just making sure it's in there.
Yeah, it's just to put parents' mind at ease, and like I said, most teachers are probably already doing
I'll second.
Okay, sir, I've got a motion by Mr. Drew, supported by Mr. Middlestat. Is there any further discussion? Mr. Moses?
Active, like us, this change, do you think this is gonna change anything with the agreement as far as?
Yeah, I think this is the clarity, the level of clarity that we are looking for. I think the board direction is very helpful in terms of the negotiation, sitting down with the union and being moving forward. So I appreciate the clarity.
Any other discussion? So I'm to understand that we're accepting all the other terms of the agreement, except for that minor change to number 15. Is that motion and the motion supporters understanding?
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else here physically present? And then I'll check in with Ms. Hendershot and Ms. DeWitt. Ms. Hendershot, anything for us before we move on this?
No.
Ms. DeWitt, anything for us before we move on this?
No.
Mr. Middlestat, please call the roll.
Ms. Brookmeyer,
Yes.
Moses,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Ms. DeWitt,
Yes.
Activated Hendershot,
Yes.
Drew,
Yes.
Mr. Middlestat will say no because of, not because of, not the spirit of it, but I believe there's prohibited subject bargaining including songs.
Fair enough, sir.
That's my, I like that.
All right, motion carries.
That gives,
That takes us down to our second round of open forum public comments. Over to Tim.
Sarah Jackson.
Sarah Jackson? You still with us?
She disappeared.
All right, who's next on the list, please?
That's it.
All right, hearing nobody else for the open forum of public comments, I will move on to the superintendent's comments.
And we have, so we do have, we do have about 60 students that went back to virtual. So we are making the adjustments because we know in the virtual, we have some classes, that are split right now, 2-3 split, I think as well. And we're trying to address that. So we will really, soon, try and place, long-term subs in this position. Because I know that has, raised some concerns, but overall, I think the staff has done great across the board to get the school year started. There are still areas we need to improve in. We do that, and we know, one of the headaches is the lunchtime, how we're doing the lunch in the classroom. We're talking about making some adjustments. So the update is we're going to make adjustments as we go forward with our roadmap and return to school plan.
All right, let's move on to board comments, and we'll start with those in the virtual world. Ms. Hendershot.
Oh, okay, I'm back. You know what? I think we have exhausted this evening. I don't want to make anybody's life any longer than necessary. I want to thank the teachers for the work that they have put in, because even though I know there were some changes made, I can see from my own children's platforms, because both of my children are virtual. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say it's been easy. It's been very difficult. Hence, I had a little bird over my ear asking me how to do perimeter about 20 minutes ago. It's challenging for everybody. I appreciate everybody's patience and due diligence, and I appreciate teachers responding to messages at 8 o'clock at night. And I, am very grateful for my new virtual teacher for my son. It was a huge adjustment, and I thank all of our elementary teachers for having our kids prepared for this change into the virtual world, because they had to undergo a whole new change with new teachers, and it was a challenge for, I think, our staff that took on those roles, and I have to commend them for the hard work, especially the two teachers that we have right now that are doing a split. It's very hard, and I appreciate the district looking into finding long-term teachers for those splits. I know it's challenging because the substitute, pool is so low. I thank all the administration for their hard work. Nobody wants to make this any harder than it has to be. There are challenges there. Nobody is going to be 100% happy. I'm reading the emails the best I can. I know I have parents that are unhappy with the plexiglass enclosures. I know we have some parents who are unhappy with the face masks. We're trying to find compromises to make everybody as safe as possible. And the middle school has been doing a great job. The high school is doing a great job. I don't want any teacher to think that anybody is underestimating anything that they're willing to do, because I've seen just in the last few days that the teachers are still doing live streaming, at least from what I can see from my side of the virtual screen here. Everybody is trying their due diligence, and I don't expect anything but the best, because that's all they've ever given us. So I'm glad that we're going to try to work together and find some kind of compromise. I guess that's the best word we can find. Living in the middle of a pandemic, you can't make everybody happy. My grandmother always used to say you'd find somebody who would complain if you buried them in a gold coffin. So, you can't make everybody happy, but we're trying our darndest. We're racking our brains. Like Miss Berkmeyer said, she's been racking her brains since this summer to try to come up with solutions. And we're watching what's going on around us. And please understand that we are doing our best, and our administration is doing their best. And give us a little bit of leeway to find better solutions as we work through these challenging times.
Thank you, Ms. Hendershot. Ms. DeWitt?
Well, first of all, Ms. Hendershot, I'd like to offer my sympathy on your loss. I know this has been a really tough year for you. And we're just keeping you in our thoughts and prayers. I would like to thank the teachers for doing what teachers do best. They're meeting the challenges day to day and doing the very best they can to move forward and educate our kids. And these are times which are when, for the first time in my 6-year term here on board, which I'm ending, we're making decisions and having to pick options when there are no good options. And that has been one of the most difficult things I've ever had to do, because you're asking, we're dealing with decisions that have to be made in uncharted waters, and they have weighed very heavily on my shoulders. I know that. So I just want to thank all of the staff, teachers, support staff, administration, for getting us to where we are right now and getting our kids back into school. And I know that every day is going to be a learning curve. I know that we need to do a better job of communicating changes as they come up. Our goal is to get these kids the very best education they can. And so if we don't do it right every time, or if we have to backtrack when we know that perhaps what we thought would work isn't working, please be understanding and know that we're not going to continue down a path that we know is not good for staff or students. So I just want to thank everyone for their understanding and support, and wish you good luck in the new school year.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Middlestat?
I'll pass. It's been a very exhaustive situation, and again, I can always compliment all of the people that are trying to get things done here in the district. As I kept mentioning, it was amazing how well we did. And I think everybody stepped up real great for and everybody had to go virtual. And I can't believe that it'll continue on. But again, it's a lot of students coming back into the schools and a bit panicked by all the constraints we're putting on them. I think it's just, they may, outside of the school, they may not be recognizing how effort we're trying to make to ensure that they're being safe. So a lot of students were kind of surprised, I think, this week with all the things going on, because I'm sure that they don't see those things go to the store or anything else. But again, we're trying to be overprotective because that's what we're all about. Thanks.
Thanks, sir. Mr. DeRue.
All right, I'll start off again, thanking the teachers, thank everybody, they're doing a heck of a job, and I just want to reiterate, like I did after the union communications, we trust you. I got full trust in you guys. I've read all the emails that have been sent to us. I understand your frustrations. Made some comments last meeting that, may have been taken out of context. I just wanted to get, maybe they were doing it, maybe I didn't know about all the conversations, but get what we did tonight, and what you've been doing over the weekend, getting the teachers and the administration to work out something that's going to be in the best interest of everybody. And hopefully we did that. And I think tonight's discussion, while it might have started off a little heated, and I apologize, Mike, but there's a lot of strong feelings up here. A lot of us are getting pulled in many different directions, from parents, from teachers, from everybody. We're just trying to do the right thing. And but I think it was a good discussion, and we need to have more of it when we're having these issues come up. So with that, I guess my thoughts and prayers with you, Janine. You've had one heck of a year. So sorry about everything that's going on with you.
Thank you, Mr. Drew. Mr. Moses.
I just like to thank everybody for all the hard work they put in. And I know it hasn't been easy or smooth, but we've been trying. I'd like to thank Mr. Green and Todd and maybe administration and everybody that got together to sort that agreement out. I know it may have been unorthodox, but I know it took a lot out of them and a lot out of. I appreciate all the hard work. On a side note, I'd like to congratulate our girls cross country team that went 7-0 and won their division, and also our band and our flag corps that took a Division I rating on their invitational they had last weekend. It was fantastic. And Mr. Dean Hendershot, my heart goes out to you. I'm really, really sorry for your loss. And that's about all I have to say. Thanks.
I think I'd like a round of applause for those two announcements of sporting events that we did so well on. Juman.
Not at all.
Ms. Burkmeyer.
There's not a lot left to say when you're left for last here, but
Welcome to my role.
yeah. So, Ms. Hendershot, our prayers are with you. Sorry for your losses. It was probably one of the highlights of the last few weeks was getting to see, the kids get back to school and the smiling faces that they got to go back to school. A lot of parents probably never knew how excited their kids would be to go back to school, even high schoolers. So seeing all of those Facebook posts and text messages and things were really great. I'm happy that, everything generally seems to be moving in a more positive direction, with the coronavirus, and that we can be at a point where we can begin to implement back to school. That's always great. And I'd also like to thank Mr. Rathbun and Mr. Green and the ABEA leadership. It sounds like maybe Ms. Swem, for really hammering this out over the weekend. Like I said earlier, I firmly agree. I'm not sure who just said it, but it was rather unorthodox. But in the end, we got our kids back in school on Monday still. And there's not a lot you can do to convince me that that wasn't a good thing. So, and congratulations to those sporting teams and band, flag corps. So things are happening, getting the kids back, organized activities and back in school. It's pretty much made my week. So Other than that, I don't have a whole lot more to say.
So,
I'd just like to add, Mr. Woodside was involved.
Yes, and
go ahead.
I'm sorry, I wanted to mention Mr. Woodside and Mr. Andy Case for getting the schools ready. And you guys definitely did that fun, and I completely overlooked both of you, and I'm sorry for that. So, thank you.
So I also, and I'll chime in, even though it's already been said, want to thank our teachers. You guys are doing a great job this year. Seriously screwed up circumstances. All of our paras, our bus drivers, our janitors, our food service people, with everything that's going on in the schools and all the protocols and the safety, you guys are still managing to get it done. I know you're stressed out. I saw that, I heard that, I heard that from our admin. Again, I was on the Zoom with nearly 200 teachers last week. I see you guys working, I see you being dedicated, and I see you being broken down to the point of tears because your technology is not working, because you can't get it to work as efficiently as you want it to. So I see all of you guys out there working, and I feel your pain. I do. From administration, honestly, all the way down to to our building support. I can't thank you enough for what you've done this week. We are only in the third day of this school year, if you will, and things are coming fast and furious, and we're trying to quickly adapt to any changes that we didn't see. Of course, with every decision, there's unintended consequences, and those are popping up. Mr. Case and I were having a conversation about some of his challenges. We know they're out there, and we're trying to pivot on those and make course corrections as quick as we can. So I would ask that parents and students, please be patient. I'm disappointed that we've lost 60 back to the virtual side, although being in a 3-sided plexiglass thing may not be what some of our students like. And it's especially difficult for our kids that have moved up to a new building. They already have that anxiety. They already have the challenge of not being in the classes with their friends. And then we throw in some masks and some plastic shielding. So I truly appreciate that as well. To Mr. Drew's point, yeah, it gets heated. We do have a bunch of strong personalities on the board. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. But quite frankly, I would rather have some heated debate. It doesn't exactly look good than everybody sitting up here and rubber stamping things. It's not what I want. It's not what I want for my district, or it's not what I want for my kids. And my son's just a senior. He'll be exiting soon. My last comment is probably directed to Mr. Middlestat and to Ms. Hendershot, and I would have to look as we're speaking about board policy violations. I believe that the board president is the only one authorized to contact an attorney. I couldn't get my computer online to verify that. And I could be wrong, but I thought I read that somewhere along the way. So I want to point that out as well. With that, I will solicit a motion to adjourn.
Someone go adjourn?
Second.
Motion by Middlestat, supported by Moses. Please call the roll.
Ms. Berkmeyer?
Yes.
Mr. Moses?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Witt?
Yes.
Activity Hendershot?
Yes.
Drew?
Yes.
Will say yes.
Meeting adjourned.